Welcome to the World of Warcraft Arena World Championship, where 8 of the world's top teams will battle for cash prizes and a chance to be crowned the best of the best. Europe, China, APAC, and the Americas have all selected their teams to represent them here in Burbank, California. These 8 teams have proven they have what it takes to make it this far, but will they be able to bring down their rivals and represent their regions on the BlizzCon stage? There, they'll battle it out for a share of the $250,000 prize pool and the ultimate bragging rights of being crowned the 2015 World of Warcraft Arena Champions. Join us for every kick, every polymorph, and every glorious moment of combat the arena can handle as the World of Warcraft Arena Championships begin at BlizzCon opening week.
Hello and welcome to the World of Warcraft Arena World Championships. I'm Jackson Bajira Blyton, and we are live in Burbank for BlizzCon opening week. Now guys, we have the best 8 teams in the world today competing for their share of a $250,000 prize pool and the right to play on the BlizzCon stage. Our teams are, starting with North America, Cloud9, Follow Esports, and Tempo Storm. From Korea, qualifying through the Asian Pacific Regional, Do It For Fun. Our Chinese team, Original Gangstar. And from Europe, SK Gaming, Skillcapped EU, and Solari Gaming. Now these guys have competed in tournaments, qualifiers, and regionals all summer to get to this stage here today, so you got to expect the absolute best of the best that World of Warcraft Arena has to offer. And to meet the guys who are going to be bringing those games to you play-by-play live, let's throw it over to the casters and meet the guys.
Thanks so much, Bajira. It is amazing to be here at BlizzCon opening week with all of these amazing games we're going to have lined up today. My name is Josh Allen, aka Lore, joined here at the caster desk by my good friends Jared Colston, aka VHEL, and Sid Compton, aka Super Tees. Guys, it's the opening week leading into BlizzCon next week. How you guys feeling?
I am feeling great, man. I am so hyped up. The magnitude of this tournament is massive. These are the best teams from across the globe battling it out for first place to be the champion of BlizzCon.
I am so excited. Again, I feel like I've been saying this throughout the whole summer, but every tournament has been getting better and better and better. And now we're down to the final 8 teams trying to find out who's going to be able to play on stage at BlizzCon. I'm so excited for this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, we can go ahead and take a look at the brackets really quick because we do have those available just to get through here real quickly for you guys. This is going to be Group A. The first game we're going to see today actually is going to be SK Gaming versus Original Gangstar. Later on, we will have Tempo Storm versus Solari Gaming. Again, that is Group A. And as they advance through that, of course, there will be an upper and lower bracket in each one of these groups. Looking at Group B now, we have Cloud9 versus Do It For Fun. And then later on, we will have Skillcapped EU versus Follow Esports.
That Group B is kind of scary. You know, if you're one of the teams in that group, you know that there's so much talent in that Group B. I'm so excited for those games.
Yeah. And even all the other teams that we've been seeing as well, like the Group A is nothing to sneeze at.
Oh, yeah.
That Original Gangstar, the team from China, they are looking really, really strong. So I'm really excited to see those matches play out as well.
Yeah, and we can take a second to look at the rules for today. So the first match of every series is going to be a blind pick. The teams don't know what comps, they don't know what players. We're allowing 4 players on a team in this tournament. So it's blind pick through the first map. After that, the losing team will then select a map. The winning team will then select their composition. Following that, the losing team will finally lock in their final composition during the draft stages. The initial stages of this tournament are going to be best of 3 format. So it's very cutthroat. It's not going to be best of 5 until we actually make it to BlizzCon. And 2 teams are going to be eliminated through these next 2 days.
Yeah, and we have added a 4th player to all the rosters. A team can take advantage of that. Most of them have, but we do have a couple teams that are just sticking to their main 3 players. So it's something new we have this year for these Blizzard tournaments.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting to see how that's added a whole lot of versatility to every single team as well. Just having that ability to say, you know what, RMD, it's a good comp, but maybe not our best choice going into this matchup. We can switch over to a Shatter comp or switch over to a Turbo Cleave or something like that. It's been really, really cool to see just the extra sort of comp diversity that ends up happening instead of every team trying to pick that one best composition that they think will take them all the way through.
Yeah, it's really cool to have all the regions come together as well, specifically from APAC and China. They're favoring the Warlock compositions. Even after getting nerfed, they're still sticking to them, and I've gotten the opportunity to watch these teams practice endlessly over the past couple of days here in Burbank, and every time they face off against each other, it's a different victor. It's almost so hard to call it. I mean, I would predict possibly an SK Gaming in the finals there. Their Turbo Cleave has been dominating through the European region, and now they're looking to strut their stuff in America, but I would expect expect SK Gaming. Who do you think else is going to be their opponent?
I don't know, SK Gaming, it is definitely one of the teams that I would expect to do really well. But, you know, we got to say that the Korean team is looking so well. Watching them practice and play, I'm excited to see. It's almost anyone's tournament at this point. You know, we really haven't, even when we're watching them practice, there isn't that one team that stands out as like the really confident, really dominant team. So we're going to have to see through these games.
Yep, and of course, before we continue on any further talking about these upcoming matches, we do have one more introduction to make. So we're going to send it over back to Jackson at the analyst station.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the analyst station. I am joined here by Elliot Venruki Venzel, who himself has a lot of experience as a player in these tournaments and has done a little bit of casting as well. And that's what you're here today to do as well. You know, you got to be excited for these games today.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction, Jackson. I am really excited for these games today. I've had the opportunity to follow these guys through the North American and the European regionals and actually watch them play. It's going to be great today to see them all come together and really see what the best region is. And these guys have come here today to compete for a lot of prize money, over exactly $250,000 worth of prizes. First place is going to be walking away with that $120,000, as well as the title of BlizzCon champion.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a storyline to tell with that NA versus EU rivalry. But one of the things that's really interesting to me is that within those regions, there's some pretty fierce rivalries. For example, the Cloud9 and Tempo Storm rivalry. And similarly over on EU, the Skillcapped versus SK Gaming rivalry. So we have a lot of really exciting stories to tell. And as the casters were mentioning, there's some dark horse candidates here. The two Asian teams, which are, you know, fairly unknown to a lot of the teams before, but in the practice rounds have been taking it to them. So we might have some upsets today. That'd be exciting.
Yeah, we absolutely could have some upsets. It's going to be very exciting to watch. And without further ado, let's take it back to the casters and get into the first games.
Thanks so much, guys. Of course, Elliot Venruki Venzel will be joining us here at the caster desk throughout the day as well, so we can get all sorts of awesome commentary from him later on. But let's start thinking a little bit about this first match that we're going to see. It is going to be that original Gangstar, which is the team from China, going up against SK Gaming, which was the team that won the European regionals.
Yep, so the Chinese all-star lineup going up against the European all-star lineup. Original Gangstar have been favoring the Warrior, Warlock, Resto, Shaman composition in practice. However, talking to SK Gaming, it seems like they've been scrimming with a Warrior Mage Resto Shaman composition, something that you've basically never even see on ladder. So China could surprise us here. I know for a fact that SK Gaming are something like an 8-0 win rate though, so it may end up being a landslide. I certainly hope that it's not, because original Gangstar is such a stacked lineup from China.
It really is. You know, if you've been following along in BlizzCons in the past, you do see a couple names that you recognize on this team. However, because of some travel issues, they weren't able to bring their full strength roster last year. So now they have all three players, and these are players who've been playing together for a long time. So it's awesome to see, and we'll have to see how well they can perform on the stage.
Yeah, definitely. That's a very, very important point, that last year several of these players from the Chinese team were here, but unfortunately one of their players was not able to make it, so they had to bring in like a last-minute sub. And they still did fairly well in the tournament, but they got knocked out kind of early. This year at full strength, we almost don't even know really what to expect out of them. However, we did get an opportunity to talk with both of these teams ahead of time and get a little bit on their thoughts. Let's go ahead and check out what these two teams have to say.
面对这次我们第一支挑战的队伍，我觉得我们会很有信心。
I know that we will beat original Gangstars 2-0. The fact that they are unknown and we didn't initially know what they're gonna run gave them a small advantage, but since today we know that they're most likely gonna run WLS, so that's not really a scary setup for us, so we should be okay against them.
他们这次比赛的主要阵容是 Turbo， 然后我们比较担心他们会上 LSD。
We can punish any team on the spot for any mistake done, so there's not much time for them to react.
不在乎他是不是SK 最好的战友。
We practice a lot, and I think we're like the best players by far in the world. Winning BlizzCon is the only thing that matters. That's the main goal.
All right, so that, of course, is our two teams, Original Gangstar and SK Gaming. I really liked it. Han Baichuan was like, I don't care if they say that SK Gaming has the best warrior. Like, he knows, you know, I'm the best warrior. Yeah. I'm the best one. We've been watching him in practice. He might actually be the best warrior.
Yeah, he definitely is the best warrior coming out of China to face off in the very first round against possibly the best warrior in Europe. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, Europe versus China. I'm really excited to see it. I know that a lot of people really underestimated the Chinese team, and now after watching them play in practice, specifically Han Baichuan on warrior is just impressing everybody. It's so exciting to see. I mean, if the teams are ready, I would like to introduce you guys to the team of Original Gangstar.
All right, this is, of course, Original Gangstar from China. You can see Yi Yang in the front there. Right next to him is Han Baichuan, followed up by Xiao Ji, and down at the end, team captain Dark Archon. These guys, again, we've been watching them play in practice, and just the sheer level, like, they've been playing primarily that warrior, warlock, shaman composition, and just their ability to win against comps that on the North American ladder, you'd say this should never happen. This should never work. Why is this working? This should never actually work out this way. They've been playing so incredibly well. But before we go on any further, we're going to go ahead and introduce our other game coming all the way from Europe. It is SK Gaming. Team SK Gaming coming all the way from Europe. They were our European champions, actually, taking that first place against the other one of the other European teams we have here, Skillcapped EU.
Yeah, that was an exciting match to end our European regionals and have these guys qualify and make it onto here. It'll be really interesting to see what compositions they're going to bring to the very first match, knowing that Original Gangstars can really only play, we've only seen them pull out those two comps so far in practice, but I gotta give it to their warrior. Watching his play style, he plays very, very offensive, but you know, you can see he always has that defensive moment. He uses a gateway to get back to his team. He's using his heroic leap defensively, but so he always has that battlefield presence, is always aware where the enemy team is, and if he has to play defensive and get back to his team.
Yeah, it's really the synergy of Original Gangstar that carries them through their games. They play so well together. They're always in the right positions defensively as three, and then they push forward with Dark Archon and Han Baichuan as well to try and execute those kills later in the game. They're definitely taking advantage of positioning in their matchups, and if they are going to take a victory against SK Gaming's Turbo Cleave, I would say it's a miracle if they do. Maybe a 1% chance to actually win in this specific matchup, so it'd be awesome to see them do it.
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, we've been saying this as we've been watching them in practice as well. They keep winning in situations where they really shouldn't win. So it's actually really tough to make a prediction here between these two teams, because we know that SK Gaming, they're the best in Europe. They are really, really good at this video game. But Original Gangstar, like, I haven't seen them play as much. Just in the practice that we've been seeing so far is really the only exposure I've had to them as this team specifically, and they've been really, really impressive. So I'm really, really excited to see how this match turns out.
I definitely am, and you can see in past tournaments when some of the NA and EU teams, because they think both of those two regions think that they're the best region. You know, we see the trash talk on forums, but then when they come to these tournaments, normally they're like, okay, well, I have to play against, you know, one of the Asian teams first round, so it's kind of our bye, and then all of a sudden a Korean team comes out of nowhere with a PHDK and wins the entire tournament.
Yep.
So that you always have to pay attention to these teams. We saw them a lot of practice games being scouted, people standing behind computers kind of watching what was going on and stuff. So I am really excited to see these matches.
Yeah, the teams have been measuring the strengths of each other quite well, and Original Gangstar, surprisingly enough, has actually been combating all of the Rogue Mage Resto Druid teams and actually taking quite a lot of games off them in practice. Unfortunately for them, the way that the bracket did end up, they're going to be facing their hardest matchup overall in the tournament. SK Gaming are going to be leading with that Turbo Cleave, and it's such a dominating comp against the Warrior Lock Shaman, which is why I think that they're in desperate mode where they're going to have to run the Warrior Mage Resto Shaman as we've seen them practicing. An unconventional comp nonetheless. Let's see how China is going to do.
Yeah, it is worth noting that we haven't actually gotten final confirmation just yet on exactly which compositions they're going to be playing. I do think that you're right that it will be that turbo cleave into that warrior, warlock, shaman. That's just what they've been playing most of the time, these two teams. However, we will have final confirmation of that here very, very shortly. Of course, the first map, like you said earlier, always going to be Nagrand Arena. After that, they do have that back and forth pick, and we will be following along with that as best as we possibly can once we get a little bit further on in this tournament. But yeah, Nagrand Arena, Warrior, Warlock, Shaman versus that Turbo Cleave, which is of course the Enhancement Shaman, the Arms Warrior, and the Resto Druid. So I kind of expect that's what we'll see,
well,
but it should still be a really good match.
We actually have it right now, so we will find out what these teams have selected right now. Again, it is going to be Nagrand Arena, and as you can see on your screen right there, oh, look at that. It is the Mage.
It is the Magus.
Yeah, we saw them play this a little bit yesterday, and we were kind of taken by surprise by it. This Mage, Warrior, Resto Shaman composition. Obviously, in previous years, we've seen a lot of Warrior, Mage, Druid be played fairly regularly. And so it was interesting to see them bringing out that Restoration Shaman. And again, it was one that they did surprisingly well with.
Yeah, the Resto Shaman is going to be passively buffing their damage, increasing their mastery level. So their burst is going to be really high. The important disability, though, of this composition is that the Resto Shaman does not have access to any instant crowd control, whether it be through stuns or spammable CC like Cyclone. So Yi Yang on Mage is going to be completely by himself to get those polymorphs. We saw him yesterday in some scrims fighting against the Korean team playing Feral Lock Shaman. He was doing quite well, able to get polymorphs even through the thick of the match. So let's see how well Swapsy and Joe actually can shut him down.
Yeah, one of the big things, like you were saying, is going to be that burst damage coming out of the Warrior and the Mage. In one of the matches that we saw during practice yesterday, it was just sudden tons of burst damage. Like, you cannot overstate the amount of burst damage that those two classes are capable to put out. They save up those 2 charges of Ice Nova, they get that sudden death proc available, and it's just execute, Ice Nova, execute, and that's 100% to 0 in like no time at all. It's inside a deep freeze. So I definitely think that SK Gaming is going to need to watch out for that. I feel like these guys, the SK Gaming team, these are top class players. They're going to be able to deal with that sort of thing, but it might catch them by surprise. They're going to know how to deal with it, but maybe they won't be prepared for it right in the half second that it actually happens.
Yeah, and it's a best-of-3 format, so any of those kind of random burst kills, that puts you so far behind. You're 1 game away from being defeated. And if any of these teams lose 2 series in a row, they're eliminated. They don't get to actually play on the BlizzCon stage. This is a reminder, this is the opening week to BlizzCon, so 2 teams are going to be eliminated throughout today and tomorrow. Original Gangstar are definitely going to be competing to their best of their ability here, bringing out a bit of an unconventional comp with the Frost Mage, Arms Warrior, Resto Shaman. I can't really tell if it's desperation, as they have not been successful with the Warrior, Warlock, Resto Shaman comp, so they're just going to be subbing Yi Yang on out of desperation to try and make the game as interesting as possible or catch SK Gaming off guard.
Yeah, and just before we get into this game, the match is just now spinning up and we'll be getting in here very, very shortly. But real quick, we're going to take a look at a poll coming in through Twitter. We want to know, who do you think is going to win? Use that hashtag WoW Esports and tweet with the hashtag Gangstar if you think that the Chinese team will win, or hashtag SK if you think that SK Gaming from Europe is going to win.
Yeah, but we're jumping into the game. We're 5 seconds away from starting the first match of BlizzCon. SK Gaming are going to be running that Turbo Cleave with Swapsy on Enhancement Shaman, Botar and Resto Druid, Joe Fernandez on Arms Warrior. We can see Yi Yang coming forward in Invisibility. Hai Banchuan does not care at all, just charging immediately onto Swapsy. Deep Freeze over onto Botar, trying to land that Ring of Frost. Nice Trinket Windshear out from Swapsy, breaking up the crowd control and slowing down the game.
And Yi Yang is trying to land those polymorphs out, but look at Botar shifting almost every single one, doing a great job. And look, they're going to get right on to that Shaman, but look at how Han Baichuan is immediately back onto the enemy warrior, forcing him into defensive during his recklessness. That's huge.
Yeah, Xiaoji doing a great job of trying to get out of line of sight over there. Unfortunately, does get caught into that full bash, which could lead Yi Yang into a little bit of trouble here. He does get the Earth Shield off onto him right as soon as he comes out of that crowd control, but now into the full fear. Yi Yang could be in a little trouble, but no, he's actually managed to get himself out of line of sight over here and tried to get a polymorph off. It looked like Joe Fernandez got a mass reflect up there, so was not able to get it off, but now Han Baichuan suddenly takes a big chunk of damage, down to 39% health. Looks like, again, he's going to be just fine, but this is the sort of back and and forth swaps that SK Gaming is making could put them in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Xiaoji's been doing a good job there, turning off the Ascendants to top off his team, but now he's caught into the Shockwave. Both players connecting into execute range. Shockwave comes out from Hanbai just in the nick of time to save him. He's going to drop that Spear Link and stabilize his team, but how long can he keep this up? Botar down at 70% mana, actually tied with Xiaoji. Pressure onto Swapsy down at 50%. Botar spamming out the Genesis heals, doing a good job to pick him back up. A lot of pressure onto Yi Yang, down to 40% HP. Xiaoji trying to cast some healing surges there to top his team off. Bash over onto Han Baishuan, trying to use that heal there as well to pick himself back up. Pressure still onto Xiaoji, down at 40% HP. Into the charge stun now out from Joe. Good defensive polymorphs out from Yi Yang are going to keep Original Gangstar in this game.
Yeah, Yang is having some problems landing the polymorphs onto the healer, which he really needs to do. That Iron Bar comes down to Swapsy, but they poly him right on it, as it looks like they might be going on Joe Fernandez at this point. They just need to get that crowd control out, which is really tough for Yi Yang right now.
Yeah, it's worth noting, though, that neither team has really had to blow too much in the way of defensive cooldowns. As I say that, Yi Yang gets super low, but still holding on to that ice block, has not had to use a single one just yet. Han Baishuan getting a little bit low out here. He may end up having to use his Die by the Sword, but no, once again, Xiaoji comes out with those heals, just keeping him up, and still no major defensive cooldowns have actually been used, aside from one Spirit Link earlier on, and excuse me, Xiaoji did just have to use his Trinket to be able to get some heals out, but the pressure on a Swapsy has forced out
Xiaoji!
Xiaoji!
He could just go down. He's in the execute range. He gets locked, and then heal drops the Link barely in time. Han Baishuan with the triple Shockwave will save Original Gangstar for a little bit longer, but how much still? Triple Fear now out from Han Baishuan as well. Xiaoji needs to start getting some hard casts off. Joe is right on his back, hunting him down. Deep Freeze over onto Botar. He did actually Trinket there. Now caught into a half polymorph. No Shamanistic Rage for Swapsy. Can Original Gangstar turn it around? Botar is going to use the Iron Barker. Swapsy dips down to 40%. Recklessness comes out from Hanbai. They're going to cut through that. They're just trying to get a kill. Joe Fernandez popping his own Recklessness now to make a turnaround. Full Shockwave. No Trinket on Xiaoji. Hanbai as well, down at 28%. So much damage coming out from SK Gaming right now. Original Gangstar are doing such a spectacular job just to stay alive.
They are, and SK Gaming was split there currently on Xiaoji and Han Baishuan. Maybe if they connected on the same target, they could have got a kill, as Han Baishuan is trying to dump some damage into Swapsy. Yi Yang is getting those Blink, Deeps, Rings over and over onto him. This is what they need to capitalize on, but they need to follow up with CC onto Botar after this.
They have, however, forced the Shamanistic Rage out from Swapsy, which is going to be one less cooldown available. It's a little bit wild. Xiaoji caught into that stun yet again. Could be in a lot of trouble right here, but the polymorph comes out from Yi Yang, slowing down Joe Fernandez just a little bit, but it's not enough. And Xiaoji is going to go down, and that's going to be the first game here going to SK Gaming.
Wow, that was surprisingly close for those comps that we were looking at. One of the things that I saw as Original Gangstar kind of maybe lost the game because of it was they had an excellent CC chain onto Botar, and they were able to just try to DPS through that Shamanistic Rage that Swapsy had up, but they didn't have the follow-up crowd control.
Yeah, in this composition specifically, like I was saying with the rest of Sham, Yi Yang is on a solo mission to try and get those polymorphs, but despite that, I really thought this matchup was going to be a lot more one-sided than that. They did force the Shamanistic Rage, they forced the Iron Bark, they got through some trinkets. Maybe if Original Gangstar can polish up their cross EC, use the Shockwaves at the same time as the Deep Freeze, that way they can allow Yi Yang to actually get the polymorphs off on cooldown, because it seemed like consistent crowd control was really the problem for Original Gangstar, but nonetheless, a huge disadvantage in terms of composition, and they're still playing excellently. I'm looking forward to game number 2.
Yeah, just speaking to that a little bit, watching that match, it kind of felt like Original Gangstar was on the back foot for most of that match, and realistically they were, but significantly less so than they really should have been. Like in this comp matchup, you kind of expect the Warrior and the Mage team to just sort of fall over, and that is not what happened at all. They have been doing an amazing job facing off against this very, very tough composition for them to actually deal with. And I think a big part of it is that what they're going to need to be able to turn this around, assuming that they stick with the same composition, they could end up switching over to that Warrior Warlock Shaman composition. But if they stick with the same composition, they're going to need to get those CCs off. They're going to need to catch Botar in caster form and get a nice polymorph rotation going on him if they're going to actually be able to put any real serious pressure out. They did force cooldowns a couple times, but it wasn't a ton.
And actually, we do have a Windows 10 game DVR replay over with Jackson over at the analyst area.
Hey guys, what a great way to start off this tournament with the battle of the self-proclaimed best warriors in the world. We're going to take a quick look at this replay to break down the end of that game here. So one thing to mention real quick is that as soon as SK Gaming saw what comp Original Gangstar locked in, I did spot a little smirk on Botar's face. So they were coming into this game pretty confident. I think they were given a little bit more of a challenge than they first expected. But one of the things that's pretty funny is that since we are in a live studio audience, we can hear Joe Fernandez as soon as he catches him in that shockwave. He says, he's dead. He gets polyed and re-polyed, but once he gets out of that, a little bit of extra damage from Swapsy brings Zhaoji into execute range, and Joe Fernandez takes care of the rest. So an awesome first match. I'm wondering what Original Gangstar is going to need to do in order to actually bring themselves back from the brink of losing this first round matchup. I think that what they might want to try to do is put a little bit more pressure on the Resto Druid, because it's really hard for the Mage to land CC on his own when the Warrior is really the only one who's able to help him set things up. So in this next match, look for maybe some swaps to SK Gaming's Resto Druid. We're going to go ahead and send it back to the guys and get in this next match.
All right, thanks so much, Bajira. Yeah, definitely this next match is going to be a very, very important one. As we said earlier, this is a best-of-3 series. So Original Gangstar needs to come back in this game and be able to if they want to stage a comeback, this is the final game of the series if they actually end up losing. So it's going to be really important for them. However, they do have that sort of losing team advantage of being able to choose both the map and be able to counter comp after the SK Gaming team has declared their composition.
I don't think there's going to be any counter comping. I really think that SK Gaming are just going to stick to the Turbo Cleave. Both of the compositions that Original Gangstar have available really just don't pose much of a threat to SK Gaming. Maybe they're going to substitute in their Warlock Dark Archon. He is the team leader. He's got some of the most tournament experience on their team, so maybe they're just going to allow all 3 players to play. I know that this team specifically likes to talk through every match. They're very professional with their setup as well, and you could see in that match, that should have been one side. That should have been a landslide. They should have walked all over them, but they weren't able to. Original Gangstar put up a fight. They pushed back, and I would like to see them perhaps switch to the Warrior, Warlock, Resto, Shaman composition, as it would have appeared it was more practiced and well-versed in the practice area throughout the week.
Yeah, one of the things to note was I didn't see a single block forced out from the Mage whatsoever, and he was playing pretty offensively. There was a couple times when he was getting low when I would expect, like, okay, they're going to block, so it pulls the pressure off him so the Shaman can get free. But because SK Gaming was splitting a lot on both the Warrior and the Mage, or the Warrior and the Shaman, or the Mage and the Shaman, it kind of gave that Mage a little bit of defensive room to breathe where he didn't have to worry about relying on those blocks. So maybe he just needs to play even more offensive in that case.
Yep. Real quick, while we are getting these teams all squared up and ready to go, declaring the compositions, everything, we do have some little fun facts about Original Gangstar that we can go ahead and show you guys. Again, all-star lineup from China. These guys have been competing in tournaments over there and just doing incredibly well year after year after year. But like we said earlier on in the broadcast, they had issues getting their entire team over here before. Zhaoji and Han Baichuan have both qualified and competed in BlizzCon before. And Dark Archon has actually also qualified for BlizzCon, but he was the one that was unable to make it previously, and he's the team captain. Like, when you don't have your team captain over here at actual BlizzCon, that's going to cause some problems. And there it is right on your screen. He qualified for the BlizzCon finals in both 2011 and 2014. This is the first that he's managed to actually secure that US visa.
Yeah, definitely very important for you to be able to have all of your players actually come and compete. It's just unfortunate, like I can't explain it enough, that this specific matchup is just so hard for the compositions that Original Gangstar have available. If they're able to even take a game, they deserve some sort of prize for that.
Yeah, this is a really hard counter, basically, for both of their matchups. One of the things to note is, since we do have that 4-man roster, we actually have all 4 players up on the stage. So if they do have to swap a player out, the other team won't know by, like, oh, he's unplugging his computer and they're unplugging his keyboard and standing up. All they have to do is turn on their monitor and they're in and ready to play.
Yep. So we will be getting a final confirmation on that draft for you here as soon as possible, just to find out what map we're playing and if they're any sort of composition changes. I do kind of expect that they're going to want to go ahead and pull out Dark Archon for this next one. In fact, we actually have the ability to find that out right now as we head over to the draft screen to get some details on exactly what map has been chosen. They're going to Tiger's Peak. That's an we don't often see Tiger's Peak chosen that early. And in fact, they are going to be pulling out the Affliction Warlock. That's going to be Dark Archon playing the Affliction Warlock for Original Gangstar. Same team once again, though, for SK Gaming, sticking with that Turbo Cleave with the Enhancement Shaman and the Arms Warrior.
I would have expected unexpected, actually, Blades Edge Arena if they were going to be switching back to the Warrior Warlock Resto Shaman.
Yeah, definitely.
Because often, as the Turbo Cleave in this specific matchup, you go after the Warlock's pet just constantly, and where on Blades Edge Arena you can jump down, kite both the melee down, port back up, resummon your pet. You don't have to spend a soul shard for it. So it's interesting that they're actually going to go for Tiger's Peak Arena. I wouldn't say that this gives them a significant advantage unless they've got some Chinese secret that I don't know about, but I do appreciate that they're going back to their bread and butter Warrior Lock Shaman.
I do, and maybe it's they really like the gateway placements on Tiger's Peak or something, because you definitely can, the gateway is almost long enough to get from the little gazebo area back to the statue, so maybe they're thinking that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and much like on Blade's Edge, you can actually use those little gazebo areas, like you call them, to the side. You can actually port up to them. It's not quite as effective because oftentimes you can see over those edges and you're still in line of sight once you're up there, but it is kind of there, so you still a little bit have that.
Yeah, specifically you guys should want to keep an eye on Dark Archon, the Warlock. He's probably the best kiting Warlock that exists in the game at this moment, at least from seeing him. He survives the most ridiculous of situations completely by himself. Of course, he is backed up by Hen Baichuan as well. With all those well-timed shockwaves and defensive fears, the team is so good synergistically speaking, so it's nice to see them play their original comp here moving into game number 2. A bit unexpected going to Tiger's Peak, but I'm really curious to see how it plays out.
I am, and I'm glad they did switch that comp up. Even though it was closer than we expected, like we said, you definitely have to pull out something at this point, because it went well for them, just not as well as you need to in your opening round at BlizzCon.
Yep. Real quick, while this game is getting started here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the results from that poll earlier. Wow, 94% saying SK Gaming is going to win this series. I mean, I think that's the safe bet. Like we were saying earlier, Original Gangstar kind of up against the ropes here in terms of disagreement or composition matchup, but only 6% for Gangstar.
To be honest, that's probably what the win rate is. It's probably 6% to 94%. So if we played 100 games,
people pulled up the stats on that one, and they're like, all right, let's coordinate.
That has to be what it is.
You have to vote for Original Gangstar.
Yeah. But the teams are getting ready to start their second match here on Tiger's Peak. We've got Zhao Ji on Resto Shaman, Dark Archon on Affliction Warlock, Hen Baichuan on Arms Warrior. They're going up against SK Gaming, Turbo Cleave, Botar on Resto Druid, Joe Fernandez on Arms Warrior, and Swapsy on Enhancement Shaman. I'm curious to see if Original Gangstar can pull back what should be a landslide victory for SK Gaming.
Yep, immediately Dark Archon getting that gateway out, like you said, goes almost the entire distance between the pillar and the little gazebo area, but Joe Fernandez wants none of that. He's immediately charging in there, trying to put some pressure out. Xiao Ji into that full fear. Dark Archon does get the Blood Horror up there for just a second, but he takes a little bit of damage, gets put into a very brief Cyclone, and he actually trinketed out of that Cyclone. That's an interesting choice.
He just wants to stay offensive right at the start. He really has to get his dots out. As you see, he's doing an okay job. You know, Joe Fernandez and Swapsy both dotted up as he refreshes full dots onto Swapsy too. But Botar is just healing straight through it.
It's interesting to see Hen Baichuan actually playing Bloodbath. He's going to be slowing both of the melee DPS quite frequently. You can see Dark Archon actually playing Mortal Coil. There's the Mortal Coil over onto Joe Fernandez. A bit of an unexpected target for that spell, as it is such a long cooldown. We see the Dark Soul out for Dark Archon, trying to build up some damage here. Swapsy's going to answer that with his Ascendance, trying to trade some damage back as the Shockwave lands onto 2. Dark Archon loading out those Drain Souls now as well. There's the full clone now out of the Shockwave onto Hen Baichuan as well. Well done from Botar and Swapsy. Good coordination thus far.
Yeah, and you were talking about the kiting ability earlier. They just kited Joe Fernandez through his entire Recklessness Bladestorm combo. Just got away from him, wasted both of those cooldowns pretty much entirely. Now jumping in over here onto Xiao Ji, gets a nice big chunk of damage onto him. Wow, Xiao Ji is just taking truckloads of damage right now, dipping down to about 20% health, but manages to get away without having to use any Spirit Link. Just goes dog form for a second over here behind the pillar. Han Baichuan, though, having to use his Die by the Sword.
Yeah, and we can see that they're just taking so much pressure at the moment. And with no trinket available, the next Shockwave out from Joe could potentially be the game. We see Hen Baichuan now with his Recklessness outputting quite a bit of pressure onto Botar as he dips down to half. Double Shockwave, it gets the double trinket out, but Zhao Ji is dipping so dangerously low and nobody was in the link except for Hen Baichuan. Dark Archon was not able to get back, and SK Gaming are going to take the series 2-0 as would be expected, but Original Gangstar are not completely out of the tournament just yet.
Yeah, that was a rough match for them. Dark Archon not being able to get back into that Spirit Link range. They were doing a decent amount of job on damaging Botar at that point, but because he can play so far away from his Warrior and Enhanced Shaman, what a great job by SK Gaming in this series.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, sort of drive home the point a little bit more about just how much burst damage actually landed there and why it was so difficult for Original Gangstar to respond to that. Joe Fernandez got off a 110k execute. That's a lot of damage. That's fairly significant amount of damage. That's a pretty big deal. So with that that big of an execute, as well as Swapsy putting out, Swapsy got a 54k lava lash. Like, this is a lot of burst damage that actually happened.
Even Botar threw out a 40k ferocious bite. So all three players were just saying, we're done. We want to move forward and just tear them apart, and they did do so in game number 2. Original Gangstar do have a second chance to battle it out in Group A. They will fight the loser between Tempo Storm and Solari Gaming, to my understanding. I'm really excited to see if they can battle it back and stay in the tournament. If they lose the next series, they are eliminated from BlizzCon.
Yep, but before we go along any further, we do have Jackson over at the analyst station with the Windows 10 game DVR replay.
Hey guys, welcome back to the analyst station. So we did see SK take a 2-0 victory in that matchup, and we talked about WLS having a really tough time against TurboCleave, and I want to look at the replay, but also tell you a little bit why that's difficult for WLS to deal with. So one of the things about WLS is that they rely on the Warlock a lot for control and pressure, and one of the things that the TurboCleave can do is lock down the locks by not letting him cast, obviously, Tremoring Fears, grounding spells cast. Also, the Enhancement Shaman can dispel the Warlock's dots, and they can take a glyph that even heals their team while they do it. And one of the things that they can also do is kill just about anything on the team. What we're going to see here is a swap over to Zhao Ji and a drop down to an execute that we heard about before. But another thing to keep in mind is that just about every team that played against this Chinese WLS was really impressed with how mechanically skilled they were, along with the Koreans. So one of the things to look out for is that the Warlock was controlling his pet, and we talked about his kiting ability, but he's also protecting his pet. He had his pet all the way on the opposite side of the map. Joe jumped up and tried to kill the pet, and he instantly started resummoning one all the way across the map. So even though they lost this game right here, keep an eye on this Chinese team, because they're one to watch. We have an interview coming up with Joe Fernandez, but we're going to throw it back to the casters and get that all set up for you guys.
All right, thanks so much, Pajira. Yeah, definitely a difficult matchup for that Warrior Warlock Shaman composition going into there. And in that second match, you really saw why, just in terms of how much damage Xiaoji was taking in such a hurry there. It's very difficult for that composition to deal with. But that said, I do not think that we should count Original Gangstar out of this tournament. I mean, especially because they will have another chance. They will be facing off against the loser of, I believe you're right, it's Tempo Storm versus Solari Gaming, I believe is going to be the other matchup that they're going to be playing. That match will be played later, and the loser of that match will go up against Original Gangstar. And depending on who actually comes out of that match, they actually still have a very, very good chance of making it out of this group.
Yeah, definitely still have a chance to stay in it to win it for BlizzCon. It would be unfortunate if they did end up going down here, as they will not be competing next week at BlizzCon. So moving a little bit more into it, I can't help but feel that that went exactly the way that it was supposed to. I mean, speaking from practice, SK Gaming was just dominating them thus through every game, and Original Gangstar have been putting up quite a good fight against a lot of the other teams. It's just unfortunate that they did get this bracket lineup, and we wish them the best of luck moving into the next series. Who do you think is going to come out ahead in this next series between, I believe, is Cloud9 and Korea's Do It For Fun?
This is going to be a tough one. Cloud9 is very good. Like, they are an incredible RMD, but that's all they have. So if the Koreans have the answer to the RMD, maybe they can take some rounds off it. Maybe they can 2-0 them with a surprise, you know, because they get the upper hand in the first round. If they found a way to dismantle this RMD, that's going to be the big thing about this match.
Yep, and we actually do have the ability to take a look at what some of the upcoming matches are going to be as we continue through the broadcast here throughout the rest of the day. It is going to be Do It For Fun versus Cloud9 coming up next. Later on, we will have Solari Gaming versus Tempo Storm, and then the final match will be Follow Esports versus Skillcapped EU, which is another one that I'm really, really excited to see how that match turns out.
Yeah, and if you guys want to tweet us, include the hashtag WoW Esports. This is the event of World of Warcraft every year. This is the biggest thing that you can be a part of. Tell your friends. It's starting today and it's finishing tomorrow and then progressing into next week as well. So there's so much Warcraft with such a huge amount of time to do it in. I'm so happy.
You know what I would love to see? Since we're not allowed to use add-ons, any players cannot use add-ons. We whitelist a bunch of scripts for them, kind of like anything that visually moves stuff around. We don't let them like create a trinket timer from their scripts and stuff like that. We talk about this a bunch. You use your stopwatch a lot, actually, which is really cool. But I would love to see a time-lapse video from the beginning of the year till now of players' streams that compete here and watch them as they shed the add-ons, like as it gets closer and closer, and then suddenly they have this bare screen and it's a nice and clean interface and not like the command center with a billion add-ons.
Yeah.
It'd be funny.
Yeah, that That's actually really. Someone should do that. We need to get it. We need to get a
I bet
streamer on
somebody's
that.
working on it right now.
Yeah, get on that right away. Anyway, before we continue on any further, we do have Jackson over once again at the analyst station for our winners interview.
Hey guys, I am joined by my warrior brother and captain of the victorious SK Gaming. So just to have a little fun wrinkle about this tournament, you guys won your first match, which means you're definitely going to be playing on the BlizzCon stage. How does that feel?
It feels really good. We really just wanted to get our match over and out of the way with, and so happy to finally be at BlizzCon.
Awesome. So one of the things that we saw in our notes about your team is that Botar is your defensive shot caller, but it does seem, especially in the games, we can hear you, yelling out which target to go on, who's dead. That was a lot of fun to hear. Are you what you would consider the offensive shot caller for your team?
I think we usually discuss together whether we can connect to a target or not. Both of us usually make the shots, and then we connect with each other appropriately.
Awesome. So one of the interesting things is, you're playing against the self-proclaimed best warrior in the world there. And one of the decisions that he made that sort of caught me off guard was the Bloodbath talent. You don't take Bladestorm, you don't take Avatar, instead you go with Bloodbath. That's not a talent choice that we usually see either on North America or EU. Did you think that was designed as a peel attempt, or do you think that what are the merits of Bloodbath there?
Yeah, I think they mainly wanted that to peel the DPS mainly, but unfortunately it doesn't really. They lose a lot of pressure from that as well, so I don't think it was a great choice, but they tried out because we were beating them a lot in the War games, so they just wanted to see if that could work.
Awesome. So you handled original Gangstar. Are there any teams moving forward in the tournament that you actually look forward to facing?
I would say we're looking forward to fight Jamili if they make it through.
Awesome. Well, this has been Joe Fernandez. He's moving on to the next round. Definitely going to be playing at the BlizzCon stage. Congratulations. We're going to have more arena for you guys right after this short break.
Being the only team with 3 people on it, a lot of people see it as a disadvantage. I mean, we only have 1 comp we can play, but I think it really boosts the synergy though between all the players. That's all we play, so we know RMD inside and out.
We all understand the comp enough and understand what's good to do, that if someone mentions something we weren't thinking of, we generally instantly know if we should be doing that.
I'm really proud of how we all get along together first of all, and how our CC in game is really good. When we're on point, it's just there's almost nothing the other team can do. And when I've watched scrims of the other RMDs play, it seems we can do a lot more insane CC than them. So definitely makes me feel really good about my partners. I'm playing with the right people.
It's not so much about regions. It's just that our RMD is the best out of everyone.
An event, a moment for people to come together.
We are thrilled that you are here.
Hello, BlizzCon. This community is everything.
게임 계속 전 힐러 하는데 게임을 오랫동안 계속 해왔어서 그냥 어떻게 해야 되는지, 이 게임은 어떤 식으로 해야 되는지 잘 아니까. 그래서
제 생각에는 아마 팀워크가 제일 중요하지 않을까?
피드백 같은 부분? 모든 면에서 멘탈적으로나 아니면 게임적으로나 그런 면들을 잘 챙겨주고 하는 것 같아요.
목표를 잡고 게임을 하고 있어요. 그게 전부예요.
경험적으로는 밀릴 수 있는데 저희끼리 뭔가 말을 많이 하면서 좀 저희끼리 좀 호흡이라고 해야 되나? 좀 그런 것들 많이 맞춰서 저희가 더 이길 것 같아요. 자신감 있어요.
World of Warcraft World Championship is brought to you in part by Intel, Windows 10, T-Mobile, and MasterCard.
Hey guys, welcome back to the World of Warcraft Arena World Championships. Once again, we are live in Burbank, California, and we just saw the European powerhouse SK Gaming take a 2-0 lead over Original Gangstar. Up next, we've got the North American first place regional winner, Cloud9, up against the Korean team qualifying through the Asia Pacific region. Do it for fun. We're going to go ahead and throw it over to the casters to take an updated look at the brackets.
All right, Jackson, thanks so much. And yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at those updated brackets so that we can get a rundown of where things are going to continue to progress from here. Of course, that last series we just saw was, of course, SK Gaming going up 2-0 against Original Gangstar. It's gonna not really an unexpected match. By the way, I should mention that Venruki's at the desk now. We've got Elliot Venzel, aka Venruki. He's joined us here at the caster desk. But what did you think of that last match?
It was fun. I was backstage watching the games. I have to say, the Chinese team, they played really, really well. Unfortunately, like you guys were saying, I think this is one of the toughest matchups in the game for WLS, playing against that Turbo Cleave, especially a Turbo Cleave of this caliber. It's really hard to sort of overcome the disadvantages they may have been at. I think, like you were saying, they still have an excellent chance in this tournament. A lot of the teams in this tournament are very scared of them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at those updated brackets. We do have those available for you guys now. Of course, as we said, SK Gaming going 2-0 against Original Gangstar. They will later on, Original Gangstar will be fighting against the loser of Tempo Storm versus Solari Gaming, as they have dropped down to that lower bracket. Of course, SK Gaming now sitting pretty in that upper bracket. They know that, okay, we've won one of our games, so we can't possibly come in last in our group, so they will be moving on to BlizzCon next week. That's got to be a huge sigh of relief for that team. If we can take a look at Group A, we'll get a look at what's going to be up next here, which is going to be Cloud9 versus Do It For Fun. And then, of course, later on today, we will have Skillcapped EU versus Follow Esports. What do you think about this next matchup? Cloud9 versus Do It For Fun. Cloud9 is the team. They play RMD, and they play only RMD because they only have a Rogue, a Mage, and a Druid on their team.
Yeah, like I was saying, if Do It For Fun has the answer to RMD, I think this is going to be an incredible match. However, if they haven't found that secret comp or that secret setup or that secret strat that can dismantle RMD, because Cloud9 is one of the best RMDs around, so they have to have the strat, or I think this is going to go 2-0 in the favor of Cloud9.
Yeah, against an excellent team like Cloud9, like you were saying, if they're not playing their A game and they don't have something figured out, it's going to be very difficult for them to take a game against what many consider to be the best RMD in the world.
Yeah, and of course, Do It For Fun. If I remember correctly, they've been playing FLS, right? Pharaoh Warlock Shaman. Am I remembering that correctly? We watched them practice a whole bunch yesterday, and they actually had a few different comps that they swapped between, but I think they were mostly playing FLS. I could be entirely wrong.
No,
I've slept since then, so.
No, they've played Pharaoh Lock Shaman as well as Warrior Lock Shaman. I think those are the two compositions that they've been playing. Okay. And in practice, they've been doing well against many of the teams, kind of surprising a lot of the North American European teams who think that those two regions are superior, but these two Asian teams have come and they're showing that they know what to do and they can play the game.
Yeah, I'm glad one of the things that we let the players do, because we have this opening weekend now, is that we fly all the players out a little bit early. They have some practice time, but not only that, they're going to have a week before BlizzCon. So the second that this tournament ends, if they have made it onto BlizzCon, you know they're going to be going back, reviewing all the videos from all the different teams, making new strats, and just practicing the entire week, being able to boot camp.
Yeah, and it's very important as well, just especially for the teams that are coming from outside of North America, just to have that little bit of extra time to rest up a bit, get over that jet lag. It can really suck if you're like on your way out here and then like the next day you have to play, but it's like 3 p.m. to me. This is weird. Why am I sleeping until 3 p.m. or whatever? I don't actually think that's how that would work out in terms of time zones, but doesn't really matter. Either way, we do have a matchup video showing the thoughts between these two teams are going into this next match. So let's take a look.
Having not lost a single series feels really good. Gives us a lot of confidence. I guess if I was going against someone that hadn't lost like a single, like they've only lost like one game out of like their whole entire regionals experience, I guess I'd be a little nervous playing against them, yeah.
첫 번째 경기 저희가 어차피 도업드 조합이 하도 많으니까 나온 팀들이 거의 반 이상을 만날 거라 생각하고 왔는데 이미 생각하고 와서 그런지 좀 준비한 만큼 하면은 이길 수 있다 생각해요.
They probably know quite a bit about us. Well, I'd assume they already know like what comp they think they have the best chance with against RMD, and just practicing the matchup a lot. RMD can be pretty unforgiving if the team is good.
2달 동안 이제 팀원들이 많이 챙겨주다 보면서 대만까지 좋은 결과로 블리즈컨 올라왔고 그래서인지 더 많이 욕심이 많이 난다고 생각하거든요.
All right, interesting. Always interesting to hear the thought, especially coming from Mudyain, saying that he's feeling a little bit rusty in the Taiwan. He almost had to kind of get carried by his teammates a little bit. That's sort of an interesting thought coming out of him, leading into what I mean, obviously is like a very, very big deal to be able to compete.
I like that
here.
though. I like that that's one of the reasons why he wants to win. I mean, obviously to be a BlizzCon champion, but because he, maybe he was shaking off the rust, maybe he hasn't played, as extensively as his teammates, and he felt like his teammates may have carried him through the Taiwanese regionals, but I think it's an awesome reason to want to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having that kind of mindset is sort of the championship mindset where if you have a bad performance, you can sort of analyze it and see what you can do better. And at the same time, if you do really well, you can say why you did well,
Yeah, and of course, to find out whether or not they're going to do well, we do have to actually bring them out onto the stage so that they can play. So let's start this off by taking a look at Do It For Fun from Korea. And there they are. That is Geo2 in the front, followed by Mudyain. Right behind him is Yunyun, and down at the end, that is Coding. Of course, we saw both Yunyun and Coding at BlizzCon last year. They were playing as part of Team Push Push, and they did actually really, really well in last year's competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they came in as kind of the underdogs, and I think that team, more so than any, surprised everyone. Once again, just like this year, the Asian team's coming in really proving that they are good, despite not being able to really play on the North American and European realms that much. They still know exactly what to do. Coding was saying that he thinks that their team has some of the best synergy of all the teams here, so maybe that'll work out for them.
Yep, and we do have one other team to introduce, so let's go ahead and bring out Cloud9 from North America. Looking confident as ever in their little picture there. Of course, that is Cubsy in the front, Wealthy Man right behind him, and down at the end, that is going to be Roasties, who will be playing the Rogue in this composition. Again, only 3 players on this team can lead into a little bit of disadvantage, but if you're stuck with one composition, RMD is a good composition to be stuck with.
I think it's the best one you can be stuck with, in all honesty, and it's nice seeing Cubsy. He always looks so calm, cool, and collective. If they lose, which they don't do often, he sits there, looks very focused, as well as when they win, doesn't get too excited, stays in the moment, make sure he's sharp as ever for these games.
Yeah, when we were standing back in the player area watching them kind of warm up, there were definitely some players getting a little tilted on some losses. Like, may have been some yelling back and forth between teammates, maybe switching the blame and stuff, but like you said, if this team had like a close match or they lost one, they were just sitting there talking over what they could have done better, because RMD, very formulaic, once they land that CC chain, they have to keep it up. That is how they're going to win this game.
And we've seen teams in the past that actually, if they've lost a game, it can set them a little bit on tilt, and they're not talking about what they should be. They're not executing the right strategies, and it can be a real problem. So having sort of that calm demeanor and that calm mindset where you can actually talk over the things that went wrong can make a big difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just so important to be able to talk strategy with your teammates instead of shouting at each other. It can be very, very easy to be like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? Instead of sitting back and saying, okay, you know what? Next match, let's just take a step back. We'll make sure we're CCing more and so on. But we do have the draft results ready and available for you guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at what compositions these teams have locked in. Of course, we're expecting Cloud9 to be playing that Warrior Mage Druid, and in fact, or excuse me, Rogue Mage Druid, and in fact they are. And it's going to be Affliction Warlock, Arms Warrior, and Restoration Shaman from Do It For Fun. That WLS that we just saw original Gangstar playing in the previous match. However, this is going up against RMD. How do you feel about this matchup?
Well, I think one of the things, traditionally people think RMD does exceptionally well against WLS, and I think that's true on Alliance. When all of a sudden you get to play Horde and your Shaman isn't as susceptible of a target, he has that Orc Racial where stuns don't last as long as him, and he's a lot harder to kill. I think that WLS actually has a very decent chance against RMD.
Yeah, I mean that Orc Rachel, you know, it great stun reduction. You know, a lot of players when they do switch over to Horde, if they're going to, they have a lot of different choices. You know, as their healer, you know, they could have Berserking for the extra haste. They could and the less snare. You know, they could go Torrent for War Stomps if they absolutely need it. But Orc is just so great to play.
It's so good, especially against RMD as well. I believe the Warrior will end up playing Blood Elf, so he'll have another interrupt or / silence that he can use to shut down the mage and the druid. Have a little extra utility in order to stop the incoming CC from the RMD.
Yeah, it's probably worth clarifying that in that graphic we do have obviously a warrior, a mage, and so on the screen, but it's not necessarily the exact races that they're playing.
Yeah, they just represent Alliance and Horde, not necessarily ones that are playing like
yeah, exactly. So I would not like.
I do like that. I like the goofy smile on the troll's face. Like I wish he was playing troll now.
Yeah, maybe that troll is actually trolling at this point in time. We do, however, have another poll to go ahead and take a look at before we get into this next match. If you would like to follow along on social media, use that hashtag WoW Esports, and we want to know who you think is going to win this next matchup. Use the hashtag DoItForFun to vote for the Korean team, and of course use the hashtag Cloud9 to vote for the team from North America. We want to know what your thoughts are moving into this next matchup. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are as well. Who do you think has the biggest shot at winning this?
I was gonna ask you the same thing. I'm gonna go for the opposite. I mean, a lot of people think Cloud9's gonna win. RMD it does well against WLS, but I think this Korean team has been playing really, really well. Talking to the teams backstage, like we said, they've surprised a lot of players. So I think that DoItForFun could pull this one out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2-1 DoItForFun, just because it sounds like they. Just in that video, you know, sometimes you have the matchup video and they're like, well, we're playing against RMD, so we're gonna try our best, you know. And when you hear those certain words, you're like, well, this isn't gonna go well. But they sounded pretty confident in that video. I'm gonna have to go 2-1 DoItForFun. They're gonna figure out how to beat RMD.
Yeah, we definitely saw them when they were practicing doing very, very well against several different RMDs. That said, Cloud9 is a really good RMD.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the one that stands out on the desk here. I'm gonna go 2-1 in favor of Cloud9. Right. I feel like Cubsy, Wealthy Man, and Roasty. I feel like they have it in them to beat this team from Korea. But that's, again, it's kind of the angle that I'm coming from with it. Is I think that Cloud9 is good enough to beat these guys. Not that I think that necessarily the Korean team is at a major disadvantage. Like, I think that Cloud9 might actually be at a little bit of a disadvantage here, and they're just good enough to actually win.
I think that Cloud9, if they play as well as they did at the North American Regionals, there's almost no chance they lose.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, they play that well against something like WLS, and their CC's that tight, and they don't mess up the defensive cooldowns. I think they'll probably end up winning, but it would be cool to see DoItForFun give these guys a run for their money.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's actually a really good point to make, because we know that RMD is a very strong composition, and a lot of people have been saying, oh, they won because RMD. Okay, sure, yes, they were playing RMD. RMD is a really good composition, but they played it flawlessly at the North American Regionals. So I really expect to see very high-level play coming out from these guys. That said, there's been some time that's passed since then. Mudyang was saying in that video that he was feeling a little bit rusty. I know, obviously, Cloud9 has been practicing, but they haven't had a tournament for a little over a month now since that America's Regionals. So maybe they were having a little bit of an opportunity to have to shake off a bit of that rust as well coming into this.
I know we've talked about RMD a lot and how good it is and how strong it is, but there is compositions in this game that can beat RMD. I think WLS is one of them that definitely has a decent shot. This Holy Pally God Comp, Turbo Cleave, obviously SK has been showing that they know what to do against RMD. They kind of had the answer, and they won the European Regionals because of that.
Yeah, and that'll be interesting to see, you know, if Cloud9 makes it past this, if they have to fight any of those European turbos, because that's going to be their big trial point, I think, in this tournament, if they can defeat DoItForFun.
Yep.
Yep. While we're just waiting for these teams to get everything sorted out here and get into this game, we do have some thoughts from DoItForFun directly on just how they feel about their team as a whole. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.
전체적으로 한 5년 정도 했다고 보면 되고,
한국 게임에서는 그나마 요 사이 1, 2년 정도 사이에서는 열심히 해서 그나마 좀 괜찮게 하는 플레이어로 알고 있다고만.
블리즈컨은 이제 작년이랑 이번 연도 2번 네.
같이 함께 한 지는 2달 정도 됐고, 관계는 형과 동생 사이.
그냥 작년에는 법사랑 해봤으니까 이번엔 흑마랑 하려고 그냥 흑마 제일 잘할 것 같아서 같이 했어요.
팀장으로서 역할은 그냥 팀원들이랑 다 벽이라 해야 되나? 그런 거 없이 다 잘 지낼 수 있게 하는 게 역할이라고 생각해요. 팀장이라고 해서 뭐 명령하고 이런 거는 전혀 없고 서로 다 의견 말하면서 그렇게 해요, 저희 팀은. 팀장이라고 따로 그런 건 없어요. 뭐 저희 조합, 저희 컴프가 그러니까 다른 팀들 조합한테 다 강하다고 할 수는 없는 조합이라서 다 만나고 싶진 않은데 특별히 뭐 누가 무섭다 이런 거는 없어요.
막 이렇게 게임 지고 이랬을 때 뭐 서로 말 더 편하게 하고 그래서 좋은 것 같아요.
팀명대로 재밌게 하려고 왔고 그냥 재밌는 것 같아요. 여기까지 와서 게임한다는 게.
All right, team Do It For Fun from Korea. As they said, doing it just for fun here at the opening week World Championships. I mean, okay, sure, it's fun, it's great, it's awesome being here, but $120,000 for first place, you kind of got at least a little bit in the back of your minds being like...
You're not doing it for fun.
Yeah.
That's part of it. That is in your mind. Like, yeah, we're going to name our team Doing It For Fun, but there's $120,000.
It's the power of teamwork and friendship.
You know it'd be really fun having $120,000.
It's nice to see the humility coming out from them.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I like what they were saying about how they always talk over their losses and everyone's kind of on an even term, and that's the thing they like about this team. And because of that, they said they have a really good synergy, and they think that although they might not be mechanically the best skilled per player, like so maybe the Warlock isn't the best Warlock or the Warrior isn't the best Warrior, as a team, when they come together, they feel like that's what their advantage is.
Yeah, not only that, as you heard, they think that their comp is pretty well rounded against just about everything, which is why when you have, you know, when you're sticking to your main 3 players, for example, like you're playing RMD as Cloud9 and stuff, if you're confident with your comp, that sets up your entire tournament. Like, you're not worried about, okay, we might be able to 2-0 our first match, but our second match is going to be our hardest one of the tournament. If we go down there, we might get countered again. So it's good to have that solid rock of a comp that you're not too afraid. And if they're not afraid of RMDs, this is going to be an interesting match.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting to think about that, like flipping it around and looking at it from Cloud9's perspective. If they're playing RMD, they can only play RMD. If other players are figuring out how to beat RMD, then Cloud9 has to be kind of worried about that. Like, if they end up going down to this WLS here and ending up having to play against someone else that can do something similar later on or anything along those lines, a lot of other teams have a lot of that flexibility available to them. Cloud9 doesn't. They're stuck with RMD.
I think the only thing they have is Cubsy can play Holy Paladin, and that's
that's true. Yeah.
I think a couple of them can play different classes. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing anyways.
Okay.
I mean, the only thing we've seen them play is RMD, and I mean, that's kind of expected with how strong the composition is, but I think we might, down the line, see something else if teams are able to deal with RMD.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right, well, this game will be getting started here in just a few seconds. We do have the players loading into the arena, and we will have that up on the screen for you pretty soon here. Again, feeling like this is going to be a relatively even match overall. I kind of expect that we're going to see some good play coming out of the Korean team going up against Cloud9, but I just know that Cloud9, they're so good. They're so well-rounded. It's going to be interesting to watch as this actually comes out here.
So what's interesting to note is the choice of races for the team of Do It For Fun. They're going triple orc.
Triple orc, huh?
Triple orc. They really don't want those stuns.
I think it's a good strategy. I mean, a lot of the time you'll see if Rossi's playing Subtlety, he'll use his kidney shot almost exclusively on the Warrior. So Cubsy will be able to cyclone out of it. Yeah, all that stuff is going to be shortened. And stuff like that really throws off your timings. When you're not used to playing against orcs, it just throws off your CC timings and how you follow up CC and stuff like that. But the gates are about to open, and there they go. Looks like we will be following Roasties out of the gate. For this match against, or Do It For Fun against Cloud9. Right away, they're going to be looking to get an optimal opener. Yun Yun and Coding sitting back while Mudien pushing in, trying to be a little bit disruptive. That is a sap under Coding. That looks like they're going to open up onto Mudien right away. The triple CC coming out instantly. The sheep on Yun Yun, deep freeze onto Coding. Mudien porting back to safety. He's going to be fine for now. The Icy Veins, as well as the Shadow Dance coming out from Roasties and Wealthy Sock, and they weren't really able to accomplish too much with that opener.
Yeah, Roasties actually lost quite a bit of his Shadow Dance there. He was kind of caught out in the open, didn't end up being able to use most of it. Looked like he was trying to get back into stealth, but wasn't able to. But Cubsy down to 20% health. Oh no, it looks like we may have actually some issues going on over here as Cubsy has just gotten feared off into nowhere. So yeah, it sounds like we are having a little bit of a technical issue. They were trying to sort that out before we got into the match. It looks like we may still have some issues. So we will get word from the admins on exactly how things are going to progress from here. That was pretty early on in the match. I don't think anything major had happened just yet. They did get a nice opener, but who knows, maybe that was part of having the technical issues as well. So we'll find out from the admins what's going to go on from here. But personally, I would guess that they'll probably replay it, but I'm not the one that gets to make that call. So
I'm pretty sure they'll replay it. Yeah, they're going to replay it. But
yeah, I mean, that was a decent opener from Rossi's. I did like that, you know, he set up so his mage could get the poly off on to the shaman, and then immediately he was onto Mudbean, who was behind the pillar. I like that. He was so far away from his shaman at that point. They were setting up for damage. So, I don't know. It was a pretty good opener.
Yeah, absolutely, and I like that they stayed split up. So when Rossi was trying to connect on a Mudyan, as soon as he got out of the CC, he just ported back, and then he had no shadow step to get back to him, which was, it's smart when you can split yourself up like that. Stay away from your port, so you have distance, and it's hard for them to reconnect to you.
Yep, we did just get confirmation that they will be replaying that once as soon as they have made sure that that technical issue has been sorted out. A very famous caster once said that technology is the vehicle of esports. We are somewhat left to its limits at certain points in time. I'm not sure where the issue actually was there, but we will get that sorted out and get these games going for you guys, because I know you guys want to see some more epic PvP action.
I want to see some more epic PvP action.
I was talking to you specifically.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, and I'm excited for these matches, like we were saying over and over. You know, it's great to see these teams. We've seen Cloud9 play a lot, you know, since we did cast the North American regionals a lot. But I want to see more games out of Do It For Fun.
Yeah, it's cool that when you get to, there's a lot of hype around the team, and it's finally fun to see, you know, what they come up with, what they can do. And I mean, them playing in the triple horde is not something you typically see, at least in North America. So it's nice, and it can sort of throw teams curveballs, specifically something like RMD. Like I said, it completely throws off your timings on crowd control.
Yeah, and it's worth noting, too, that even though that hardiness ratio from the Orc is probably the biggest reason to choose Orc, they do still have that Blood Fury available, and it's not nothing, basically. Like, it's not as good necessarily as, say, the human racial getting that second PvP trinket, or second DPS trinket, excuse me, but just having that little extra burst available on everyone on your team, that can still be a good thing. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see how this works out for them with that triple Orc.
Damage is always a good thing.
Damage is pretty good.
Damage is always a good thing.
Yeah, it helps your healing as well too. Like
yeah.
on the shaman, you can use it along with your ascendants or something to top your team off. So, yeah, we will be getting into this match just as soon as we get that tech issue sorted out, and then we will be moving on.
So what did we see in the opener? I believe we saw a sap onto Coding, a cheap shot onto Yun Yun, and then he garroted Mudyan. And out of that, Wealthy Man was able to follow up with a deep freeze and into another sheep, and then Coding was able to get that clone, or sorry, Cubsy was able to get that clone onto Yun Yun. So immediately we saw a good RMD opener. They got a lot of crowd control up, but they weren't actually able to get out any sort of damage whatsoever.
Right, and that was the big deal at the opener. Even though it was a nice, clean opener, the positional I did like when the Warlock was able to port away instantly on that. So I will have to see if they can replicate that in the next match, you know, to try to mitigate that RMD opener, because it's not that it's guaranteed, but it's pretty close to guaranteed against this comp.
You all run in invisible. It's hard to really deal with something like that.
Yeah. Of course, we were talking about the prize money earlier. Let's actually go ahead and take a look at a breakdown of how exactly all of that prize money is going to be divvied out. Of course, that's a $250,000 total prize pool. $120,000 of that goes to the first place, and then second place is going to be $50,000, and then it moves down from there. $20,000 for third and fourth, and $10,000 for fifth through eighth. And it's worth noting that $10,000 is still a lot of money. Like, that's still a decent amount. But $120,000 is literally 12 times that.
Yeah. No doubt. All of these teams are here to win, and it's not even all about the money for these guys. A lot of the time, these guys will be playing for the actual title of BlizzCon champion, which is super exciting. Yeah, that's kind of like I was saying earlier. That's how you beat the game in World of Warcraft. Like, that's the final boss. If you're a PvPer, yeah, and that's a really competitive PvPer, you want to win BlizzCon.
It's really interesting because, like, the PvE thing is, you know, being the world first on the boss to down it and stuff. And, you know, raid tiers come here and there, you know, maybe a couple per year and stuff, but like you said, for BlizzCon, because a lot of these players have had to slowly form their teams together, qualify through the online qualifiers, so this has been a really long process for them.
Yep, and so the gates are just about to open here. We are getting back into this game. This is still game one between Do It For Fun and Cloud9. We're going to have to see if Do It For Fun can actually pull out the victory here against Cloud9, which is an extremely strong RMD. We're going to be, once again, following Cloud9 out of there, following Roasties here. He's going to be looking to get that early sap, trying to move in over here, just coming up behind just a little bit there. The sap goes out onto Coding, but he wants to get over, and there's the Shadow Step, jumping over onto Mudgain and immediately putting him that cheap shot into that kidney shot as well. He's actually got him caught out of line of sight over here.
That
death
DFA
from
on the board,
above.
that was so insane. Mudgain's still down to 50% HP. Roasty's doing an excellent job there. Wealthy man actually popping his icy veins. He wants to get out more damage, more pressure. Coding actually not in any CC whatsoever, has already used his trinket, but the offensive clone coming in from Cubsy, that's what we've sort of seen him do all throughout these tournaments, denying the incoming heals from Coding. The cheap shot smoke bomb out of Mudgain, still in a lot of trouble, down to 30% HP. Coding trying to get that aura mastery off and run into the smoke bomb, getting off a little bit of heals. The Healthstone as well coming up from Mudgain. They're trying to get out some offensive pressure, but right now Cloud9 has all the momentum in their favor. Do It For Fun is having such a hard time getting out damage onto them with how much crowd control they've been doing.
They are. Now, Mudgain does have that Dark Soul up, so he's going to be able to put out a bunch of damage as they are going to go on to Wealthy Man, who's down to 60% health rate there. Going to force out the real early Iron Bark because Cubsy knows that he might be in a little bit of trouble with his positioning where he is. Barely misses a spell lock on to the Cyclone, so that was a great fake right there as Mudgain is in those stuns. But look how short these stuns are because of the Orc Racial.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting to see how well it almost seems to be messing up Roasty's timings a little bit. You keep seeing the cheap shot fading off just before the kidney shot comes out. Now Mudgain, though, still taking tons and tons of damage over here. There are still 2 Spirit Links available for Coding, but the offensive Cyclones, once again, coming out from Cubsy. Cubsy, though, caught into that stun for just a second there. He's going to go ahead and use the Bark Skin, trying to keep Wealthy alive, trying to avoid having to make Wealthy use any of his Ice Blocks just yet. He still has both of them available, but Mudgain is still in so much trouble over here. The Death for Above, once again coming out, and he's going to port away, but Roasty's just going to be right on top of him right after that. Now caught into that cheap shot. Again, Coding is so far away behind 2 pillars. Mudgain could be in some trouble, but no, he's got that gateway right there. Wealthy dipping super low. Still no Ice Block out of Wealthy, though.
Yeah, Cubsy could actually be in a little trouble. This is a full Stormbolt on him. He has no Trinket and Bark Skin available with Yun Yun on his back, fearing him up actually. Wealthy
and look
man.
at Roasty's too.
Yeah, everyone's getting so low for the team of Cloud9. This is the Demon Soul coming up from Mudgain at the moment. Cubsy has really no cooldowns left to work with, trying to get that Tranquility, but Yun Yun pushes in and actually interrupts it with that pummel. The bash going out onto Yun Yun though from Cubsy. Cubsy looks like he's going to be okay. Throws out that NS onto himself, tops himself off. Both teams are going to stabilize for now. Coding actually has his Trinket up as well as both Spirit Links. Hasn't had to use one Spirit Link this game yet.
Yeah, Wealthy Man's pet is just dying over and over and over. The team of Do It For Fun is doing a great job. I see him having to resummon it constantly. As we do see the blind out onto Coding, as he is going to trinket it instantly. And look at this positioning again. Again, Mudvayne is ready to port back. He's ready there with the gateway if needed. It is impeccable positioning from Do It For Fun.
Yeah, Mudvayne doing an excellent job kiting. He did manage to avoid that Death from Above from Roasty's that time around. Managed to not port in the middle of that, meaning that Roasty would have stuck onto him. Wealthy takes a bit of damage here, but he's still holding on to that second Ice Block. Cubsy doing a great job of keeping him up, but now Cubsy caught into that Stormbolt. Could mean a little bit of trouble for Wealthy here, but no, they're actually going on to Cubsy there for just a second, trying to get a Cyclone off. Doesn't look like he was able to get it, but Mudgain once again having to run from the team of Cloud9. Wealthy gets low just enough to have to force out that Iron Bark from Cubsy, and Cubsy just running around in bear form at the moment as much as possible, trying to avoid getting any sort of swap over onto him. Cloud9 actually seems like they're a little bit scared of Do It For Fun swaps right now.
Yeah, Mudgain actually getting cloned up there. The full kidney shot going out. Coding it, catching a huge heal with a well-timed heal coming out of that clone, but the smoke bomb coming out. A lot of damage, death from above, pardon me, coming in. Mudgain still in the middle of the map tanking this damage. He does have his port available if he needs to get away. Wealthy Man, though, down to 30% HP, having to pull back and play a little bit defensive. Cubsy actually already went for a drink and down to 12% mana once again, so Coding, Mudgain, and Yun Yun winning this mana war, and as the game goes further and further, unless Cubsy can go for another drink, it's going to be impossible for him to heal through this damage with no mana. Wealthy down to 20% HP, though. He does have one more Ice Block available if he needs it. The NS coming out from Cubsy. Yun Yun going to be cloned up. Cubsy in a lot of trouble, though, loaded up with Haunts. If somehow, some way Yun Yun is able to connect on him, he could be in a lot of trouble.
And that's what they're going for right now. Yun Yun goes back out immediately. Roasty is ready to answer it with some peels. But look, die by the sword instantly so he can stay on his target. I really like this, but Cubsy has already gotten away.
Yep, Mudgain, though, caught into that kidney shot with Coding caught into the Frost Jaw. Mudgain could be in some trouble here. A full sheep comes out onto Coding. He doesn't have his trinket available just yet, but look at Mudgain's ability to kite, constantly just getting out of line of sight, saving Coding from having to use his trinket, which has now become available. The blind comes out, Coding immediately trinkets that blind and drops down the Spirit Link. Do It For Fun is going to be just fine. They might be able to force out another Ice Block from Wealthy.
Cold Snap's going to be coming out very soon for Wealthy.
Yep, Cubsy was able to get some drinks off. This is gigantic for this match. Let's see how much mana he made it out with it. Look at that, 40% mana from that drink. That was huge. That was a great trade for that ice block.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mudjane now caught into this kidney shot once again, coding into that deep freeze. They don't have the follow-up CC onto him just yet. Mudjane once again is going to go ahead and pour it out of there. Do it for fun, doing a great job of not getting too hyper-aggressive and feeling like they can go in for the kill when they really can't. Wealthy taking a little bit of damage over here, but it looks like he's going to be fine for now. Does get the Iron Bark from Cubsy, which is going to limit a lot of that incoming damage. They're just trying to save that second ice block as long as possible because he doesn't have his Cold Snap up for another 2.5 minutes.
Cubsy does have his trinket available now. Coding still has no trinket for a long time. Wealthy Man pushing in, getting the full deep sheep. This could be it for Mudjane. The Shadow Dance coming out on him. He's going to have to get away, use that port. Dark Regen comes out, but is it going to be enough? Down to 10% HP. The Master Reflect comes in to stop some of the follow-up CC. That was beautiful from Yun. He needed to do that. Coding just going to drop the Spirit Link Totem, which is exactly what he needed to do. And now he's running on fumes. Cubsy has managed to turn the mana advantage in his favor by getting these drinks off, and now Coding is in a little bit of trouble.
And Yun is out deep in backfield, you know, right on top of Wealthy Man and Roasties. Roasties with that evasion up right there, forcing Yun into the defensive stance just for a little bit. But it's great that he's using that sweeping strikes and hitting both of the DPS every time that he can. Wealthy Man taking a little bit of damage right now, going on the offensive though. The big thing to note though is the mana war at this point. Cubsy starting to get back down low. Coding though is about at 10%. This is huge. He really has to try and get a drink if possible. But the problem is his warrior is already out there such in deep field that he can't just let him be by himself.
Yeah, it's worth noting that Coding will have his trinket up again in about 5 seconds, so he will have that available should he need it. Yun trying to go over and pop a bunch of offensive cooldowns over here, but he does immediately have to pop that die by the sword, and actually kind of having to back away over here as Coding was caught into that deep freeze, didn't want to have to use his trinket to get out of that. There's the blind. He's going to immediately trinket that blind once again, doing a great job keeping his trinket cooldown lined up with that blind cooldown, but Yun still actually just taking a lot of damage out of here. It looks like Cloud9 may have decided that, you know what, Mudjane, we're not getting very far on him. We're going to go ahead and start going after Yun, who's been playing so offensively, but they force another ice block out from Wealthy. He does not have his Cold Snap available.
Yep. Yun could be in a lot of trouble, though. He has no more defensive cooldowns besides Rallying Cry up, but they can get another Shadow Dance on him, which is going to be up at 22 seconds. Yun could be in a lot of trouble. That is the Enraged Regeneration. Maybe they're perhaps baiting it for the Shadow Dance. Coding not in any CC right now. If they can get CC onto him and get another setup onto Yun, that could for sure be the game. Healing waves coming out from Coding, though, going to get some huge heals on Yun, but he's still not out of the woods yet. He needs to be very, very careful because Shadow Dance is coming up for Roasties, and if they can catch him in a good stun, he's going to die.
Yeah, Coding getting lower and lower and lower on mana, despite the fact that he's keeping his team topped off. He's down at 3% mana. Roasties could be in a little bit of trouble here, though. Down to 20% health. We've got some DPS cooldowns coming out of Wealthy and Roasties right now, just trying to get this secured kill as soon as possible. Wealthy, though, having to catch that Iron Bark and get over here out of line of sight. Cubsy now actually running really low on mana and health as well. Down to 20% health there for just a second. They're trying to keep this going as much as they possibly can. Do it for fun, despite the fact that Coding has been running on fumes for so long. Cubsy is once again completely out of mana, but he's got the Shadow Meld up. He's going to go for that drink.
And he's getting a big drink off right now, actually. Look at that. It is, this isn't good. 45% mana yet again. But, you know, both Wealthy Man, his block did come back up. He has that block going.
Coding actually got a little bit of mana there, down to up to 25% mana, which is nice. Wealthy Man having that ice block come back up. Both healers aren't going to have a trinket for another 20 seconds. Mudjade getting topped off from a huge heal from Coding, stabilizing his team, and now the WLS wants to go on the offensive. The Blade Storm coming out from Yun. Wealthy Man doing everything he can to control that damage, throwing out those sheeps. He is loaded up with the Haunt now. He's going to be taking a lot of damage. This is 25% dampening. Cubsy's having a really hard time stabilizing his team through this Warrior and this Warlock damage, but this is a setup coming out from the RMD. The full sheep on the Coding. Mudjane in a lot of trouble, down to 10% HP. The Dark Regen comes out as well as the Rallying Cry. Coding needs to get out of this crowd control. He does have a Spirit Link available. Trinket comes up in the nick of time for that blind. He doesn't get the Spirit Link totem off. Rallying Cry's getting fade. This could be the first game. He's caught into that Frost Shot, the offensive clone going out onto Mudjane. If they can get anything else onto Coding, that is a full cheap shot. It is very, very short though, but the Garrote comes out.
Wow, that Spirit Link was like a quarter second away from being there. That was so close.
That is the saddest Spirit Link.
I feel like he actually had time to get the Spirit Link off.
In between?
Yeah, he had a second to get the Spirit Link off the totem off, and I think he perhaps was being, I'd have to watch the replay, but
maybe he was waiting because he was cloned up at that point too.
The Spirit Link works through clone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's That's that game right there. That was really close on both sides. I really liked Mudyane's positioning with Coding. I think Coding had to push out towards the end and got caught in between the two pillars, and then it was a CC chain after that point.
Yeah, so that will be the first game in this series going to Team Cloud9 of Wealthy Man, Roasties, and Cubsy. Again, just playing that just super tight on all of their CC through that entire game. There were a lot of situations where they probably would have died, but a nice like last second cheap shot goes out or something like that. And of course, right at the end, that cheap shot onto the Korean team was able to actually secure that just long enough, onto Coding, excuse me, was able to secure that just long enough to be able to actually get that kill. So very well played from Cloud9, but very well played from Do It For Fun as well. That was a close game.
Yeah, it really was. What a great game that was, and that was just the first of the match, which does mean that the team of Do It For Fun is going to be picking the map at this point, and then Cloud9 will lock in their comp, which we can only imagine is going to be RMD again, and I can only assume that Do It For Fun is going to stick with that comp because they did such a great job this match.
I wonder what map they're going to choose. I think if I had to guess, it would be something like Blade's Edge, especially since Mudyane was the target basically the entire game. He's going to have that bridge to jump off and port back up, which will be very nice for him and make him way harder to kill.
And surprisingly enough, even though there wasn't that Z-axis, it was almost like they were playing with it in that match just because of where the pillars were positioned, and every single time, you know, he had that gateway that was kind of like cutting through the LOS of both pillars, so he could leave the Shaman back behind the other pillar and then bait the death from above. He actually, you can tell he learned. Like, he waited for the DFA after the first couple that, you know, he just, you know, he could have died right at the beginning at one of those DFAs because it brought him to the port.
Almost every single one of his ports, too, were the Soulburn ports, so he has that sprint and that freedom to sort of kite around the pillar and get away and make it really hard for them to connect back onto him, which I like that decision. And it's a very, very defensive decision, but at the same time, it's keeping him alive, and that's really what you have to do as WS. You have to stay alive, and it's sort of victory through attrition, you know? Last longer than your opponents.
There was some very, very impressive kiting coming out of Mudyane in that matchup. But before we go on any further, we need to head over to Bajira at the analyst station for our Windows 10 game DVR replay.
Hey guys, when you say World of Warcraft Arena World Championships, this is the kind of game you're hoping for. And like you guys said, we're just getting started. Let's take a look at this replay and break down the end of this match. So in my mind, this match was a battle of the healers. Cubsy definitely seemed to know that this was going to be a mana battle, and he constantly was looking for drinks there. It almost cost his team. However, near the end of the match, another thing to keep in mind is that the healer Coding, he always liked to trinket blind. Pretty much every time it was up, trinketed that blind. But what that left him unable to do is trinket link. So even though it's a very, very short cyclone, even though he had maybe a little bit of time to link, he still got cloned there. Mudyane did, which bought him just enough time to land that cheap shot and score the game-winning kill before he was able to trinket link. So we did see extremely solid defensive gameplay coming out of Do It For Fun. Extremely good kiting from Mudyane. However, near the end of the game, like I said, it was that decision to always trinket blind, no matter what, that may have actually led to Do It For Fun's doom. Either way, that was an amazing match. These guys definitely seem to be putting on a show for us, and I cannot wait to get to the next game. Let's throw it back to the casters and do just that.
Thanks so much. Yeah, watching through that replay, it looked like there may have been like a 1/10 of a second there that he could have possibly gotten that Spirit Link off, but
I think he had a little while.
If he was mashing that button, he might have been able to get it off.
I think he might have been playing a little bit greedy, but sometimes you can get away with that, especially with Shaman Mastery.
And that's what it would have been, you know, if that Cyclone would have faded and if he would have been able to land just one more heal onto him, it almost would have topped him at that point and stuff. But, you know, that was a great matchup. I do like that with the replays that we have, we were able to see exactly like, well, he probably should have Spirit Linked at that point.
All right, let's take a quick look at Team Cloud9. We do have some interesting facts to show you guys about this team. Obviously, as we were saying earlier, their preferred comp, they've been playing Rogue Mage Druid pretty much all the time, but Cubsy does have that Paladin available that they can play if they decide in a specific matchup that the Paladin might have a little bit of an advantage. So those are their two preferred compositions. They were considered, actually, I remember this going back to the Americas Regionals. We were like, oh, they've only got 3 players. This team, we don't really know that much about them at that point. They were kind of considered to be an underdog, but then they just kind of annihilated everyone they ran into at the Americas Regionals and really proved themselves as one of the best Rogue Mage Druid teams in the world, and that's what's gotten them here today for the Arena World Championships.
I think that what you were saying, though, with that Orc Racial, I think it was throwing Cloud9 off just a little bit. Like you said, you know, there was a little bit of overlap missed, you know, with those stuns landing for that one moment, which allowed Mudyane to port away a couple times right there. So it'll be interesting to see if Do It For Fun can capitalize on that, you know, just throw them off their game just that slight amount.
Yeah, we'll have to see what these guys are doing. We do have a draft ready for you guys so we can see which map and which comps these guys have selected going forward.
Yep, we will take a look at that real quick. I believe just thinking about the learning that you were talking about just as we get into this draft here in just a second. As soon as that's available, we can go ahead and take a look at that. But just the learning, we were talking about Mudgame learning about the Death for Above. It also seemed like Cloud9 was kind of learning how the timings were going to be a little bit different with that Orc Racial. But here we go. We're going to Tolvaron Arena. It is once again for Cloud9 going to be that Rogue Mage Druid as well as the Warrior Warlock Shaman for Do It For Fun. So same compositions, but we're going to Tolvaron Arena. It's a little bit bigger map. This was Do It For Fun's map choice. I'm actually really interested in their map. I'm really curious about why they may have chosen Tolvaron Arena. It used to be kind of the obvious choice for Warlock compositions because the gateway could go from pillar to pillar. Yeah, but since Warlords of Draenor, it's actually been nerfed and it can't actually reach that full direction anymore. You kind of have to run out into the open or port yourself out into the open with that gateway. So I'm actually interested to see if they're still going for that Tolvaron.
I think what we're going to see is Yun trying to get snares out onto Rosie's as well as Wealthy Man as much as he can. And once again, we're going to see that Soulburn port, and he's going to have a much bigger pillar to kite around. It's going to be really hard for them to reconnect to. And I mean, if Cubsy wants to push in and get follow-up crowd control from Wealthy Man's Polymorph, it's going to be difficult because if he has to displace in, he really has nowhere to go. He has to still use that same pillar that everyone else is using. The other pillars are much further away than something like Nagrand.
Yeah, and so if he does stagger his gateway and his port, like we were saying, he has a little bit more room to work with. Plus, Coding has both sides of the pillar, obviously, at that point. So makes some cute little triangles with his team, you know, keeping his Warlock topped as he ports back. But plus, the Warrior can stay offensive because the RMD can't sit all the way back on a pillar like we saw. Like, Cubsy cannot sit on that far pillar.
Of course, earlier we asked you guys sitting at home on Twitter what you thought the outcome of this match was going to be. So we can go ahead and take a look at some of the preliminary results for that. Wow, 88% for Cloud9. They're disagreeing with you guys. They're saying, no, what, Cloud9's got this. I don't want to hear this 2-for-1.
That was a close game, though.
It was.
I think if Coding was able to get that Spirit Link off, it would have been a lot different of a story. I mean, I think they've surprised a lot of people since that poll has been done, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, I believe you can actually still participate in that if you want to on Twitter. Use that hashtag WoW Esports.
You want to push Do It For Fun up a little
just
bit,
give them,
you know,
give
to
them
make
a little
sure
bit
that
of
our
a bump.
predictions are in sound.
If they can at least win the poll, then that will. If they end up losing the series, but they win the poll, then
fine with me.
That's it's basically a 2-1 victory.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we are just waiting for one of our players. I do believe they are going over Cubsy's headset right now, I think. Something. But we are going to figure out what's going on with that. So just a short delay for you guys. But we do have that draft already. Same compositions. It wasn't any, I wouldn't have expected any change. Do you expect any race change, faction change from any of the teams?
I think it'll end up being the same thing. One of the things I want to talk about that last game is mana seemed to be such an important issue for both teams. So I think Coding as well as Cubsy going to be having to look for those drinks when they can, when that's available to them, when they have the time and their team has the momentum in their favor. That's something that they're going to have to look for a little bit earlier on in the game to win. I mean, once you get to minus 25% dampening, it becomes really hard to find those key moments where your team's going to be fine and they can live long enough.
And that was the thing. We saw Wealthy Man trade blocks for drinks, basically, for Cubsy. And, you know, when they are focusing Wealthy Man, that's kind of a gamble at that point. But it definitely did pay off because there would be no way that Cubsy would have been able to heal through that towards the end.
Yeah, and it was interesting as well, just talking about that mana there, just looking at Do It For Fun and Coding. He was on fumes for a long time, and he managed to keep his team alive. Cubsy went out of mana twice, got 2 drinks off, while Coding was sitting at like 8% mana that entire time. Really showing, the ability of the Resto Shaman to be able to sort of run on fumes for quite a while just because of how well their mastery works in those deep dampening situations. But also showing his own presence of mind. It can be really, really easy for a healer in that sort of situation to start to kind of panic and be like, oh god, I have to pop every single big heal that I can right now. And instead he's just sitting back like, this healing wave. This has got it, no problem.
Be fine, no big deal whatsoever. And yeah, also Coding is just having to pretty much single target heal the entire game, whereas Cubsy, his whole team is dying to the Warlock and the Warrior, and it can be hard to keep up your HOTS and be mana efficient at the same time.
Yeah, if there's one thing that RMD doesn't do exceptionally well, it's spread pressure. They can make swaps on a dime, but constant spread pressure is something that they, just the Frost Mage and the Rogue aren't really able able to, they don't have major damage over time effects or anything along those lines. Like there's Moonfire, I guess, but that's from Resto Druid. That's not going to do anything. So it's interesting to note. That's a very, very good point, actually, that Coding really only has to worry about 1 or 2 targets. He's not really ever worried about his entire team at once until they do get into those deep dampening situations.
Right, which means the Resto Shaman Mastery, like we were saying, is perfect for this situation. That said, I do like that he was holding his trinket for that blind every single time, and it was like, same thing. You have to line up those cooldowns, because if he would have eaten a full blind during those matches at any point at that point, Mudyan would have died.
Yeah, that's a nightmare. If you get like Deep Frozen into Polymorph, Frostjaw into a full blind, that's just the game. So you have to line up those cooldowns unless it's an absolute emergency. And I like that he had the presence of mind to really just save it.
And it was great, because we'd look and we were like, oh, his trinket's on cooldown, and it's like, oh, it's back up. Oh, blind hit. Oh, and it's trinket again.
Yeah, you see a lot of players actually doing that and just lining up, because blind's a 2-minute cooldown, trinket's a 2-minute cooldown, and that's just that little extra burst of CC that RMD has available. So just making sure that you always have that trinket available for when you know there's going to be a long CC chain, because blind is in the mix. It can work out really, really well, but sometimes still you might want to sit through that blind just because you think you might need it in the next few seconds. Either way, the game will be starting here very, very shortly. We have gotten the players into the arena, and as soon as these gates are about to open, we will be bringing this game to you guys. It's going to be game 2 between Do It For Fun and Cloud9. Cloud9 up 1-0 in this series. If Do It For Fun loses this, they're going to drop to the lower bracket, but if they win, they have the chance to come back and take it.
Yeah, and nobody wants to lose in this situation. Do It For Fun, of course, 1 game away, like you said, from the losers bracket. Cloud9 1 game away from the winners bracket. Both teams got to be very nervous and anxious for this game. Roasties, we're going to be following him out of the gate once again, going to be using that Shroud of Concealment, keeping his whole team stealth. It looks like they're going to be sitting back at the beginning. They don't want to get pulled out by being over-aggressive. Looks like Mudyan is once again going to be pulling away from his port, so if they do get the initial CC onto Coding and Yan, he's going to be able to be in the open and port away to safety.
Yeah, he was going to try to bait the sap with that intervene and try to get it onto the warrior, but it doesn't look like it's going to land. Same with the cap totem. Roasty is just playing very patient and gets the sap and the cheap shot, and they're going to do the exact same opener onto Mudyan. But look at where Mudyan is playing, right near that gateway, because that deep is going to land onto Coding, and I do believe, yep, Frostjaw after it. So long CC chain, but Cloud9, you know, not capitalizing on that quite yet, followed by the Cyclone. Just look at all these CC layered on top of each other onto Coding.
Yeah, Mudyan does have that Dark Soul active, though, and he's starting to put out a whole bunch of damage over here. Mudyan taking quite a bit of damage himself, getting caught into that cheap shot, or excuse me, that kidney shot. Gonna cause him some trouble over here. Roasties, though, popping his offensive cooldowns, trying to put out a whole ton of pressure, but neither team really getting put into any really scary situations just yet. We did see the Spirit Link Totem coming out from Coding there, and that's gonna be the first real major cooldown coming out from Team Do It For Fun.
I like what Cubsy is doing. He's using his trinket. He's trading his cooldowns for the WLS's cooldowns. He doesn't want to fall behind, so he used his trinket Iron Bark as well as Vigil right away to sort of top his team off and make sure that they can stay offensive and that they don't fall behind and have to worry about healing too much. That is the full blind on Coding. He does have his trinket. It looks like he's going to try to sit this full blind since Mudyan and Yan are completely fine, and that is going to mean that later on in the game his trinket isn't going to be lined up with blind, so they might be able to capitalize on that way further down. Mudyan actually using his Demon Soul, and if you guys look at the frames, when a player uses his offensive cooldowns, you can see the fire around their frame. So when Demon Soul's up, you can see the fire. When Shadow Dance is up, you can see the fire, and that's just something to look out for.
Now Cubsy down to about 60%, you know, but sitting good at 54% mana. Wealthy Sock having to have that Iron Bark placed on him, and there we go. Now we see a Shadow Dance with that death from above, with the kidney into the cheap. Mudyan has to eat that Rallying Cry right there, as he is going to port back, and he is getting kind of low. Coding has to Trinket Link right there, but Mudyan isn't in the... There it goes.
Ooh,
wow,
oh man,
that was so close.
And that's what I was talking about there. Now Coding had to use his trinket on just a Deep Freeze Polymorph, and around like a minute and a half, he's going to have no trinket for the blind, and the RMD of Do It For Fun may be able to capitalize on this. Cubsy actually taking a little bit of damage, displacing away and actually going for a drink really early on.
Right in the middle?
Yeah, right in the middle. Wealthy Man still has both his blocks available. Doesn't even look like they're going to have to trade it. They're actually going aggressive right now. Mudyan taking a lot of damage. Deep Freeze going out on a Coding. Cubsy actually able to get a lot of mana out there, right there. The full sheep. Mudyan trying to do his best to get away, but Roasty's on his back doing as much damage as possible. The sprint, though, finally able to get away. The Master Reflect comes in too little, too late, not able to reflect the polymorph onto Coding, who's still in CC. Wealthy Man taking Wealthy Man taking a little bit of damage right now. Catches a huge NS from Cubsy, gets topped up, and Mudyan doing an excellent job kiting and basically surviving. Coding caught into that full phone right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that full clone is landed. Of course, he does have the option of the half blind. However, Coding still has a minute on the trinket. That death from above again onto Mudyane with the cheap shot coming out. Mudyane is in trouble, but again, ports with that soul burn, like you said, over and over, using him for that sprint, Coding in that deep again. He just needs to pick Mudyane up without having to burn a Spirit Link. That's what he needs to do at this point. But look at Cubsy taking that off rot damage since he was being hit by that Warrior too with a Recklessness up.
Wow. Expect a full blind very soon on a Coding. Wealthy Man, or Rusty is going to have that available if they can get a CC chain. Mudyane has no more defensive cooldowns. Coding really doesn't have much. Spirit Link coming up in around 20 seconds. But this is their time to capitalize on it. Shadow Dance coming in around 20 seconds. Cubsy getting so low, almost into execute range. 21% loaded up with the Haunt, trying to get away the best he can. The cheap shot going on to Rosty's. Yunyun, pulling back. Cubsy having to use his Vigil, trying to top himself off. And Mudyane taking a little bit of damage right now. Coding pulling back, playing very defensive. He does have his trinket up in 10 seconds, so it doesn't look like they were able to capitalize on that blind too much. Rosy's actually getting low, down to 40% HP. Cubsy starting to fall a little bit behind. Wealthy Man trying to throw out those spell steals to get a setup going. Here comes the Shadow Dance coming out from Rosy's. Cubsy caught into that full Stormbolt, trying to stop some CC. Well done by Yunyun there. Mudbane pulling back, actually taking a lot of damage right now, but the Master Fleck comes out. Coding isn't in any CC, but as I say, that gets caught into the full polymorph. The full fear, though, going out onto Cubsy. I think Yunyun's doing an excellent job making sure his team can stay offensive, and Wealthy Man might actually have to go into his first block here.
Yeah, it actually would be his second block. He was actually caught into one earlier, but the Ironbark does come out, which is going to prevent that from happening just yet. He's trying to get that polymorph out.
I like that.
Nice. Yeah, that was an amazing move. Porting over there into that Spirit Link totem. Really doing a great job. Do it for fun, staying alive. Wealthy, though, gets kind of low there for just a second, but he's still holding on to that second ice block as they are just constantly swapping back and forth. Now Roasty's down to about 30% health, swapping back once again onto Wealthy. They're just really trying to keep Cubsy off guard here, just moving back and forth between two targets as the primary focus constantly. And of course, that constant pressure coming out from Mudyane with that Dark Soul active.
Shadow Dance has just come up for Roasties. The Deep Freeze going out on the Coding. Cheap shot on the Mudyane. Yunyun caught into a full clone, but it didn't look like they could get anything on the Coding. Yeah, they were able to stop that CC on the Coding. Of course, the Deep Freeze isn't going to last long enough. That's what we were talking about with the Orc Racial. Gave him time to get the grounding out and not actually get polymorph. So that entire setup was kind of wasted.
One of the things I liked earlier in the match that we saw on camera, I do believe, was Roasties ran away back with Cubsy out behind the pillar because Cubsy didn't have any defensive cooldowns available for him. And Roasty was able to get just a flat re-stealth off, no vanish, and was able to put some crowd control out onto Yunyun, who would have killed Cubsy at that point.
Oh, but Cubsy just got a nice big drink, putting him back up at 45% mana, matching him with Coding. Coding actually doing a great job of keeping his mana pool at a decent spot through this entire match, despite all the damage that Mudyane's been taking. Here we go once again. Yunyun actually trying to use his Recklessness here, trying to put some damage out onto Wealthy. They really want to get that other block out of him, as he will have his Cold Snap in about 30 seconds. But Wealthy's still taking a lot of damage, but they're turning it back around onto Mudyane once again. He just came out of that kidney shot. Now the cheap shot onto him as well. Cheap shot onto Coding. Do they have any follow-up CC for Coding? Does not look like it. There it is. The blind comes out. Coding does not have his trinket available. Mudyane could be in a whole lot of trouble right now. He gets locked out on his Shadow Cast, just trying to get that fear out. Now Coding into the Cyclone. Mudyane could just go down right here. The rallying cry comes out, but that's not enough.
Wow.
And Mudyane will fall, and that's going to be 2-0 for Cloud9.
Oh man, despite an excellent game played by Cloud9, I mean, Do It For Fun, that was, I mean, that was just so hard for them to deal with. And like we were saying, if you don't have that trinket lined up for your blind, that full blind
20 seconds.
Yeah, blind into sap, and they can't do anything about it. Roasty's basically winning them the game with that crowd control there, done excellently, and Mudyane really couldn't do too much.
Yeah, just a really, really well-played finish there from Cloud9, even getting the sap off, because once Coding had been sitting in that CC for long enough, of course, he drops combat, and the Rogue is able to get that either a vanish sap or even just getting a re-stealth and getting that sap off, just to drop himself into stealth, getting that sap off, just that little bit of extra CC, and that's what we've been seeing coming out of Cloud9 through their entire tournament career up to this point, is just getting every last little bit of CC timed just perfectly. In the first game, we saw them get kind of thrown off with that, with the Orc Racials a little bit, messing up those timings, and that's the sort of thing that can really mess you up in those situations. You're just so used to, all right, I cheap shot him, and then 2 seconds later, I kidney shot him. It's like, actually, now it's like 1.7 seconds or something like that. That makes it a little bit weird for you, but they obviously got past that, had some amazing CC just lined up perfectly in that last bit there, and that got themselves the win.
Yeah, and Do It For Fun did a great job of disrupting the CC of Cloud9. There were so many times when Wealthy Man was pushing up for that deep into Sheep, and they stopped him, and then they locked the Frostjaw also. So great job for Do It By Fun. I can't wait to see more games from these. But however, Cloud9, just absolutely impeccable play. They did such a good job.
Yeah, kind of like we were saying, if they played well, it's going to be really, really hard for Do It For Fun to actually pull off a win. I mean, a lot of the time they had a lot of pressure, but once Cloud9 felt that they were in trouble, they were able to just pull back, play defensive, get out their crowd control, and they made sure, even though they were taking a lot of damage, they still were being offensive, and they could pull out of that sort of defensive position and get the damage rolling in their favor.
Yep. All right. So before we move on any further, we do need to head over to Jackson at the analyst station, where he has got our Windows 10 game DVR replay.
Thanks, guys. Awesome sets of matches there, with Cloud9 having to fight really tough against Do It For Fun. However, the thing is with Cloud9 is that when the pressure's on, they can handle it, and that's what got them that 2-0 sweep in that series right just then. Let's take a look at this replay, because we have some really nifty plays that led to that last game victory. So we know that Coding loved to trinket that blind instantly. We made a big talk about that. We were talking about that for a while, and it was effective. We saw that it kept his team alive for a long time and almost allowed them to dampen down Cloud9. However, in this match, he started trinketing a little bit differently, and I think that's one of the things that led to their demise here. Because once you sit that full blind that just landed there, you are very susceptible to Roasties, who just about is able to CC off of anything. He's going to go for that sap right off of that, and there's really nothing they can do at this point. Easy win for Cloud9 there at the end, even if it was a difficult match throughout the course of it. We are going to talk to Roasties here in just a second, but we're going to go ahead and throw it back to the casters while we get set up.
All right, thanks so much, Jackson. Yeah, we will get that interview for you guys here very, very shortly, but just sort of unpacking that series yet again. Despite it being a 2-0, that felt like a very, very close series. Like, that could have easily gone to a game. Of course, we all predicted that it was going to be a 3-game series. I predicted the Cloud9 victory. You guys predicted Do It For Fun. I just want to put that out on the record that I at least got that bit right. Thank you very much. But yeah, no, that was an awesome series. I'm really, really excited about the rest of the games that we've got coming up. They're all going to be so good.
Yeah, that's what we have in store for the rest of the games. And I'm excited. I knew these games were going to be good. Of course, these are some of the best teams in the world, if not the 8 best teams in the world, coming here competing for us today. And yeah, like I said, if this is what we have to expect for the rest of the tournament, I'm excited.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, so we will be getting that interview here in just a second as Bajira is getting himself set up over there with Roasties for that that interview itself. But before we move on to that, do you guys have any thoughts on the next match we have coming up, which from memory, I believe is actually not from memory. Yeah. I'm just going to read it
memory
here.
Cheat sheet.
From memory on this piece of paper I have over here.
This will be a good one.
Yeah, Solari Gaming versus Tempo Storm.
Yeah, Solari Gaming, of course. I think they were the 4th place team coming in from the European regionals, right?
Yep, and so they are going to be playing against the number 2 team from NA. But of course, when we did see that NA finals where it was that mirror with the RMD, it was completely one-sided into Cloud9's favor. So with Cloud9 just being such a dominant team, and Tempo Storm, they are great players. I'm not like counting them out whatsoever. Course, yeah. But Solari Gaming is going to have a lot of different comps to face against with this team of Tempo Storm. They have a lot of different classes that they can play. They have a lot of different setups, a lot of different strat swaps. You know, there's a lot. You know, Jamili can play both extremely offensive as a mage, extremely defensive as a mage, so he can swap all that up too. So Solari Gaming is going to have quite a feat.
Yeah, and I know both Tempo Storm as well as Cloud9 have been practicing some other comps that are sort of untraditional that's sort of popped up on the ladder to talk about. Little baby Michael has sort of invented this strange comp of Arcane Mage, Rogue, Paladin, and these teams have actually been practicing that here. So there is a chance that we actually see Arcane Mage maybe in this matchup and in this tournament, which would be really cool.
Yeah, it's going to be good. That's going to be. I'm hoping for the Arcane Dream myself, man. But before we go on any further, we do have our winner interview ready with Jackson over at the analyst station.
Hey guys, welcome. I am joined by the victorious Cloud9 captain and rogue extraordinaire Roasties. So we just saw you guys take a nice 2-0 victory against Do It For Fun. And first of all, I want to ask you what you think about those dirty scum casters who are rooting against you. I'm kidding, by the way. No, the first real question is, so you guys were considered the underdogs in the regionals, and then you guys came out of there first place. So what does that shift from being an underdog to, you know, maybe the favorite coming out of North America? How does that shift your confidence coming into this tournament?
It makes me feel good that teams are like scared of us maybe. But I kind of almost preferred it when at regionals when no one really expects us to win, and it's more like, oh, we just go in there and beat everyone. They're like surprised. But now like for the first seed, we're almost like expected to win, so maybe it's a little too much pressure, but I think we handled it pretty well.
You guys certainly seem to handle it pretty darn well in that matchup right there. I want to talk about one particular play in which Cubsy got extremely low in a pretty vicious swap, and then you were back there to help him out. And what did you do there to try to save your druid there without any cooldowns to save himself?
Well, we were trying to reset because they're getting a lot of pressure, and Cubsy was getting kind of low and getting a lot of mana. And I knew that I was gonna get drop combat from like the re-stealth, and so I just like blinded the warrior when he was in the stun, and I got the re-stealth as I blinded him, and it was really fortunate that the warrior trinket blinded us, cheap shot him instantly, and then we could just like go right off that. It was pretty good.
Yeah, so you seem to be really heads up in terms of chaining CC with your teammates and otherwise. What did you use there right at the end to land that final kill?
Well, since I blinded the warrior the other time, coding event trinket blind every single time, and so we saw I use blind on the warrior, and I think he trinketed something else during the game, and so at the end I blinded his aura mastery, and he didn't have trinket for it, and then we got the dance tap off it, and we just killed him at the end. It was pretty good.
Awesome. So you guys seem to handle that team pretty handily, although they were really tough matches. You said that you're really impressed with how they played, even though we didn't really know much about them before. It seemed like they might have been even given a lot of teams a hard time during the practice rounds. Is that true?
Yeah, I think the Asian teams are no joke this year. I've been watching them both play during the practice, and they're both really good.
So we know that there's maybe a little bit of rivalry with the guys who are setting up right now. Are there any other teams out there besides maybe Tempo Storm, or including Tempo Storm, that you're looking forward to battling on this stage?
I'm not really looking forward to battling anyone. I just want to get some games, and I like playing the game.
Sounds good. Love of the game. You gotta enjoy hearing that from somebody who's as skilled and successful as Rosie's has been up to this point. But we are going to take a short break and be right back with more arena action.
It's not going to get any better than BlizzCon, right? So if you win this, you're pretty much the world champion.
I think the EU teams are a lot better. There's like one turbo of EU, and I think they're close to the best players in the game right now. And I think they have the best chance to win BlizzCon, and that's why I think our jungle is better than theirs, because we practice against the EU teams, and in my opinion, they're better.
I think the hype is actually justified, but considering the teams we bring from EU, I can't see an American team win this competition, actually. Like that's really good players, playing really good comps.
I think the biggest challenge to get to BlizzCon was actually in the qualifier, because there was one team they thought, or everyone thought they will go through. I think it was Reawakened 2. They're playing Turbo 2, and Turbo is a hard game for us, but we surprisingly were beating them 2-0, and we were pretty confident after that.
I think it's really nice to see that WoW grows and that they actually still care about the competitive side, and that's actually what is really motivating.
The best thing to win BlizzCon would be that at home everyone's saying it's just a computer game, or in school they told us that playing computer games is not something you should do. And right now I told everyone that I'm going to America just because I play a computer game. I think if you win here and get the $100,000 for our team, it would be cool to tell them that I've made a lot of money by playing computer games.
So I think our team would be probably the best at BlizzCon because all four of us as individual players are respectively probably the best at our class.
We've played together since season 13, which was the second season of Mists of Pandaria. And ever since then, we've been pretty good friends, and we get along pretty well, so it's good.
Yeah, Lee will definitely play an important role in BlizzCon. He didn't play much in regionals, but we're going to need him for certain matchups. Lee's job is mainly just to communicate what's going on with him and whether or not we can be playing aggressively or we have to pull back or something.
So I think my role as team captain, other than just keeping up on top of things, is making sure that our entire team is, keeping on track and making sure they're staying positive. If we've lost a series or we lost a few games, then it's usually not a big deal because we can bounce right back and just get over it. I've always wanted to compete as a player at BlizzCon, and especially playing a Holy Pally, I feel like my class is a little bit underrepresented at these kind of big tournaments because in the last few years, I haven't really seen many.
Winning BlizzCon is really important to me because I've been at the top of the game for a very long time and I haven't really had much to show for it, and this is an opportunity to prove that why I'm so good.
it a moment for people to come together.
We are thrilled that you are here.
Hello, BlizzCon. This community is everything.
The World of Warcraft World Championship is brought to you in part by Intel, Windows 10, T-Mobile, and MasterCard.
Hey guys, welcome back to the World of Warcraft Arena World Championships. We are once again live in Burbank, and we just saw Cloud9 take a 2-0 victory over Do It For Fun. Up next, we've got Tempo Storm versus Solari Gaming, an NA versus EU matchup that I cannot wait to see pan out. Just to see how it goes, we're going to go ahead and throw it over to the casters.
All right, thank you very much, Jackson. Yet again, this is going to be an exciting matchup. Again, a nice NA versus EU rivalry going on. Of course, we do have Tempo Storm, which did get in second place, like we said before, from the North American Regionals. You know, did get beat by Cloud9 in the finals, though, so securing themselves a second place, and of course, the invite to BlizzCon, which is what everyone cared about at Regionals.
I think it was kind of a reality check when they lost for Tempo Storm in the North American Finals. I mean, a lot of them, you know, they talk about how they're the best players, and they arguably are. I mean, they're amazing at their respective classes, but I think they definitely can still improve even more than they have. And I think when they lost, that they took advantage of that and hopefully practiced a lot and came here with a little bit better of a game plan.
All right, so we can take a look at the brackets to see what has happened so far today, because we have had two matches that went on. Group A, we did see SK Gaming defeating Original Gangstar 2-0 in that matchup. And of course, right now we do have our second match from Group A for today, which is going to be Tempo Storm versus Solari Gaming. And of course, Original Gangstar was knocked down into the lower bracket, which means they do have a chance of coming back and making their way to BlizzCon next weekend.
It's got to be feeling so good for them. I mean, for SK Gaming, though, being in the upper bracket, if you win these games, you know you're safe from elimination, and you are absolutely going to go to BlizzCon. If you lose, you know there's a chance that you can not even make it to BlizzCon. So these guys got to stay focused and make sure they keep a level head so they can make it out and actually advance to BlizzCon.
Yeah, definitely. There were a lot of shots between Tempo Storm and Solari Gaming. US versus EU is a consistent battle amongst words, but now we actually get to do it with action.
Yeah.
And actions speak louder than words. And we've been looking at Group A for a while here. Let's take a look at Group B, which we have determined that Cloud9 have defeated Do It For Fun 2-0. I was watching that backstage, and that series, the score doesn't justify the gameplay. I really feel like Do It For Fun could have taken that series easily, and unfortunately, though, in reality, Cloud9 lead 2-0, and we're gonna have to see if they can battle it out in the winner's side of Group A. However, the matchup between Solari Gaming and Tempo Storm is gonna be an interesting one. As we've been talking about, Tempo Storm can play a lot of compositions. Rogue Mage Druid is their primary one to get here, but they also have Elite on Holy Paladin, which they can throw in there for the Holy Paladin Shatter play, Peekaboo on Shadow Priest. We've also been talking about Arcane Mages throughout the day, and trust me, we're not trolling you. That's actually a real thing.
It's actually really good, yeah.
It might even be the best comp in the game. We've been kind of pushing Jaw along, trying to make him play it throughout the day, so I would be really excited to see it. I kind of doubt it in this first match, but it would be awesome nonetheless.
Okay, we were able to talk to the players about this specific matchup. Maybe they'll hint a little bit at the Arcane Mage, but we'll have to see from the players themselves.
I don't really think there's any way that we lose, because we've basically fought the same exact team at regionals, and we already were able to beat them 2-1.
Our first match against Tempo Storm, I think it's going to be rough. All of them are known players, but that doesn't necessarily make them good players. I think we stand a good chance against them, and it's going to be nice games for the crowd.
I'm feeling pretty confident, you know, the comps and how to play against them. Yeah, US is definitely better. You know, they're just better players. EU is really slow to adapting. They play a lot of games, but they don't make much progress.
I think the strongest person of Team Tempo Storm is Peekaboo. We heard a lot of him, and I watched a lot of his stream and his gameplay. And compared to the EU rogues, he's on the same level in my opinion. So I think he's the best player of the team.
I can't see an American team win this competition. They better practice enough.
Yeah, we're probably going to give him the janitor treatment. It's a clean sweep.
Oh, Jamili. Did like that. I was waiting for something.
Yeah,
He was
that
going
was
to
a
say
good, that was a
something in
good
there,
line.
but that was a really
like
good
that.
one. I liked it.
And this is the first time in this tournament so far today that we're going to see a North American team versus a European team. Both these guys seem exceptionally confident moving forward in this matchup, and once again, we'll just have to see how it rolls out.
Yeah, I would expect standardly at least to see the Rogue Mage Resto Druid composition out from Tempo Storm. I definitely think it's their strongest, most practiced composition, but they have been playing the Arcane Mage Assassination Rogue Holy Paladin throughout their time practicing here in Burbank, and they've been doing very well with it on the North American ladder, so it is a composition that they have available. It's a composition that Solari Gaming need to be prepared to respond to. I know specifically Elite as a Holy Paladin is a good counteraction against the Hunter Asukin on Solari Gaming, so we might see Elite play possibly the H Paladin Shatter or the Arcane Mage, but I believe we do have a poll available for you guys to vote for what team you expect to win.
Again, use that hashtag WoW Esports, and we are going to be using hashtag Solari if you want Solari Gaming to win, or hashtag Tempo Storm if you want Tempo Storm to win. And right now, it is literally 100-0 in favor of Tempo Storm, and I'm sure that's going to change as these games go on. But without further ado, let's get these teams out of here. I hope Solari Gaming can come back from that 0% voting record for the poll, but Solari Gaming is going to be your green team for today. And as they walk out, looking a little confident, they definitely, I did like that they had that little jab against Peekaboo where they were like, oh, I watched his stream and I thought he was going to say, he's the best rogue in the entire world. And he's like, yeah, he's all right. He's about the same as he as the EU
I watched his
rogue.
stream and I was kind of impressed. He's about maybe on the level of a European rogue. But from left to right, we do have Prakta, and then Sukin, Zam, and Fuin in that order. So yeah, these guys are looking good. They're looking confident and comfy in this chair, and we'll have to see how this game goes.
And of course, they are going to be playing against the team of Tempo Storm, which is going to be our yellow team of this matchup. A lot of well-known names in the North American scene. Of course, like we said, these guys might be the best at each of their individual classes that they play.
Yeah, definitely individual skill is not lacking on Tempo Storm, but can they come together and build the synergy that they need to win BlizzCon? They're going to be starting their journey off here against Solari Gaming, which can play two compositions, which we really haven't spoken much about. They can play the Jungle Cleave composition with Sukin and Fuin Hunter and a Feral Druid paired together with Waffle on Resto Shaman, or they can substitute in Prakta on Affliction Warlock. So if they're looking for a dot rot playstyle, let's do a lot of damage, they could choose to lead with that. I would expect the safety pick to be the Feral Lock Shaman, as Elite could potentially try to pick that Holy Paladin to counteract Sukin.
Yeah, we know the map is going to be in the Grand Arena, and we do actually have a draft available for you guys. We can see exactly what these guys have decided to run in this first game.
All right, so on the Grand Arena, you know, both teams have a lot of different options that they can choose from, and it does look like that we are going to have that Mage Rogue Druid, that RMD from Tempo Storm. You know, that is their solid choice. They are going to be going Alliance. On the other hand, we are going to see that jungle. I am excited.
And we've seen this matchup in the North American regionals. Tempo Storm played against Follow Esports, and they actually dismantled them. It was a very one-sided matchup, if I believe.
I don't recall that. I think that there were a lot of technical issues, really, for Follow Esports with their computers having problems. And actually, it was pretty close in my opinion.
Oh, really?
But they were playing the Feral Lock Shaman majority of the time, whereas this time, Solari Gaming are going to stick with their main composition here, the Jungle Cleave with Sukin on Hunter, Waffle on Resto Shaman, and Fuin on Feral Druid. And I can't help but feel that Tempo Storm kind of winning the blind pick here. Unless Starship really gets caught off guard and bursted hard, I think Tempo Storm should take game one.
Yeah, we'll have to see, as these guys have to be getting ready. I can't wait. Again, Tempo Storm has a lot of crowd favorites on their team individually. You know, a lot of people following their streams, a lot of people saying that Peekaboo is one of the best rogues in the game right now, if not the best rogue in the game.
Yeah, he could be, arguably, but we will determine that here at BlizzCon. That's the whole point, right? Let's see who is the best of the best. Tempo Storm, definitely, as we've been saying, individually could be the best players on their class, but as a team, we've seen like Cloud9 have a lot more synergy. They're more team-based in their decision-making. I do appreciate that both teams, though, are going to be leading with their primary compositions. They're not going to be trying anything too unorthodox or too unusual in the first game. I expect a decent match nonetheless.
Yeah, this is also, once again, not a who's the best rogue championship, like, or who's the best mage. This is a 3v3 championship, and these guys have to play 3v3 well, and so they're going to have to come together as a team and pull off a victory. That can't be overlapping cooldowns. They need to make sure, especially Temple Storm, I mean, they need to be on point with their crowd control. If they don't, Solari Gaming can take advantage of that and actually land a kill against them. And
now, one thing to note, Peekaboo is going to be playing Subtlety. I know we sometimes see the swap back and forth between that Subtlety or Combat Rogue. A lot of the European rogues like to play Combat in RMD, but of course, Tempo Storm choosing to stick with their guns and go with that Subtlety Rogue. On the opposite side, of course, Sukin is going to be playing Survival, which has found its slot basically in this comp.
Yeah, and Sukin is going to be playing that Survival spec, as you said, so it's a lot less bursty, a lot more consistent pressure. We're going to be looking to see if Tempo Storm can secure their opener. They're going to run in and pet over the entire team, which means they are not able to get a stab. Peekaboo opening with a cheap shot onto Fewen. The Shadow Dance comes out with the DFA, a lot of burst onto Fewen. He trinkets and pops the Survival Instincts to reduce a lot of this burst, potentially, and pops his Incarnation. They're going all in. YOLO mode onto Starship. Incarnation popped. Murder of Crows is up. He's going to Ironbark himself, camping out in bear form. He's going to need a lot more cooldown than Ironbark, being very greedy right now, dipping down to 30%. NS and Heart of the Wild have to come out. He's still getting destroyed. Barskin now comes out for Starship. He needs to be able to recover. Fewen getting peeled off here. Waffles caught into the polymorphs. Starship still just struggling to even hold himself above 50% health.
He does have those feral bleeds on him, and all those cooldowns make it do a lot of damage. Starship finally able to get away and get topped off, but right away, Fewen and Sukin be able to be on his back. He does have his trinket. He's used that, and he has no cooldowns left. He needs to get away. We need to see peels coming out from Peekaboo and Jamili. Jamili actually caught into a full trap right now, deciding to ice block that offensively. He's sitting in that block for a little bit. He doesn't want to open himself up as a target. The deep freeze full sheep going on to Waffles right now. Fewen could be in a lot of trouble. Does get that survival instincts up, and still just on the chase, on the prowl, on to Starship. If he can land a full stun onto him, Starship could be in a lot of trouble. The smoke bomb coming out from Peekaboo on a Fewen. The full bash though on to Starship. This could be the first game. Both Druids getting exceptionally low. Starship able to get away, get some heals on himself, and Fewen down to 10% HP. The Spirit Link comes in from Waffles, able to keep him up for now, and both teams going so hard in the opener.
Yeah, definitely. We can see the Spirit Link forced out from Waffles early on. There's the Murder of Crows, answered by Starship's Ironbark. He's able to get out of line of sight and keep himself completely stable for the time being. Tempo Storm, though, they have a long time before Incarnation comes up for Fewen to get some rotations going. There's no trinkets available on Solari Gaming. Looks like they're looking to set up to win. Fewen caught into the kidney shot, down at half HP. Ice Nova #1 coming out from Jamili. Icelands connects. Moonfire's flying through from Starship. Starship moves forward to get the clone. He gets locked out. Jamili gets trapped. Waffles needs to find a way to pick up Fewen right now. He drops the leg. He's not outside of it. Barely gets into it, but Starship secures the clone. We can see Solari Gaming rotating the pressure, trying to connect onto Starship as Starship displaces away, but Fewen is still dangerously low. Gets locked on his clone, down at 30%. Waffles has no more major cooldowns to pick him back up. Getting polyed for 1 second. Fewen is still going after him. He does not care. He knows that Waffles is going to get CC'd. It's his last chance to strike, but it's not enough. The Shadow Dance from Peekaboo and Tempo Storm are going to take game #1 over Solari Gaming, as would be expected.
Yeah, once Sukin and Fewen didn't have those trinkets available anymore, every single setup is just so dangerous. Every time he gets caught into a full stun and his healer CC'd, there's not really much he can do, but they were so close to actually landing a kill in the opener.
Oh, they were. I really liked that Fewen just went for it at the end. He knew that Waffles wasn't going to be able to get out of that CC, and what's the point of just running away if you're not going to get heals from your shaman anyway? You just might as well go for it.
Yeah, it was a bit of a risky play, but he had to make it at that point. Tempo Storm just rotated through all the cooldowns one by one. Starship was able to stay alive, clinging on by the ends of his fingertips, really, to stay alive in that game. I'm curious to see if Tempo Storm are going to make any composition swaps. I'm curious as well to see if Solari Gaming are going to put Procta in on Affliction Warlock. It might be an option for them, as I believe Tempo Storm might have won the mind game in terms of the blind pick in the first map.
So do you think the FLS would have made a difference in that matchup?
Well, I think it might have stood a little bit of a better chance if they can stay alive, because Abster's team, Follow Esports, at least in the North American regionals, were able to put on quite a good showing against Tempo Storm, and Solari Gaming kind of talked themselves up all the time, saying we're better than Follow Esports, we're the dominant FLS, the dominant jungle cleave. So I would have expected maybe that to deal with the Rogue Mage Druid composition. Now moving into the second map, it means that Solari Gaming will have to pick it. That map might kind of lead into what composition they're going to want to play. Something like Tolvaron, a big map, kind of leads towards the Warlock coming in, whereas if they pick something like Ruins of Lordaeron or Dalaran Arena, I would expect that they're going to keep Sukin in on the Hunter and just keep the momentum rolling. If they can keep a level head, the intensity that they had in the early stages of the matches was so strong.
It really was, and I was really impressed with the Hunter play, and every time that Starship, it looked like Starship almost made the wrong decision to leave his own pillar and to try to cross, and then he got caught out in the middle of the field, and that's when he started taking that massive amount of damage and having to constantly shift into bear form and use that stampeding roar like to get back to the pillar that he just left from the start, but the entire time the Hunter was just on his back like non-stop.
Yeah, and we do have a Windows 10 game DVR replay with Jackson, so we're going to go over and check that out.
All right, guys, so that was a pretty fast-paced first match against two of the potentially most confident teams in this tournament, Tempo Storm and Solari Gaming. We can take a quick look at this replay and break down the ending for you guys. So what we saw was pretty much a ferocious train strategy coming out of Solari Gaming. And this is a strategy that Jungle Cleave had used successfully in the past against, it was Follow Esports versus Luminosity Gaming. The difference between this is that Luminosity Gaming was playing Turbo Cleave, and they were willing to make swaps back and forth rather than just only training the Druid. So it can be done with Jungle Cleave, especially with the Hunter being survival, that frozen ammo constantly slowing the Resto Druid, and the Feral Druid pouring tons of damage in during Incarnation. Note that I mentioned during Incarnation. Watch Fuin just try his best to waddle across the map in bear form, and that is not what you need. So perhaps if they want to use that Resto Druid training strategy, they might want to swap it up in between Incarnation. But I do want to mention another thing about Tempo Storm's confidence. They know that their Druid is susceptible to training, and even before the game, they're like, just go bear form, you'll never die. So there's a lot of confidence in there, both as a team, but in their teammates individually, and Starship did show that he could survive that. Whether or not he'll be able to do it the second round, we're about to find out. Let's throw it back to the casters.
All right, thank you very much, Jackson, again. Just go bear form. Yeah. That was a strat of choice during that game, and Starship was able to survive during that. It was great.
It's really scary for a Resto Druid, because even though you get away and you're able to kite, you're still loaded up with Survival Hunter dots as well as Feral dots, and those things are no joke. Those bleeds are really, really scary. So even if you get away, you have full hots on yourself, you cast like 3 or 4 regrowths, you're still like dead.
Yeah, and even still, with the momentum that Solari Gaming had, I would have liked to see Waffle play a little bit more aggressively. It's once you get in that position where all 3 players in the jungle are on top of the Resto Druid Starship, that's when they can take full command, because early on, Starship was actually playing greedy. He traded the Iron Bar for the Murder of Crows. Incarnation was actually already rolling at that point, so it was kind of risky not even using the bar skin right away to try and reduce the damage, and he could have gotten caught off guard there early on and got bursted down. So I'd actually like to see the aggression out from Solari Gaming even more so than it was that game. I said they were YOLO, you only live once throughout that game, and that's really what they need to do against Tempo Storm if they want to win with that Jungle Cleave.
Yeah, and it absolutely takes an exceptional Druid to survive against a Jungle Cleave like that. I know that when I play my Resto Druid, it's a nightmare for me to survive against that, and if I somehow use my cooldowns like that, I know I would have died. So I don't know how they make it work, but it's pretty remarkable.
Great players. All right, and we do have, that is on your screen, is going to be the 2 teams, but we'll have to have a glimpse into their mind with this matchup to see what map and what comps they have selected, since we do have the draft all ready for you guys. And of course, the losing team, which was Solari Gaming, was able to pick the map that they are going to be playing on. And there you go. The Dalaran Sewers is what is going to describe the type of comp that they are going to play. So that is going to be the same matchup that we are going to see. Same factions and everything.
Exact same thing, except it's a much smaller map, and it's going to be hard for Starship to actually get away.
Yeah.
So if they can do that, if the game plays out the same way, I believe that Starship will die. He's going to have to rotate his cooldowns a little bit better, have to see better peels coming out from Jamili and Peekaboo, but it can be difficult. I mean, if they're just spamming out their trinkets, getting spam dispelled by Waffles, and getting CC'd so much by that Survival Hunter, it's hard for them to really shut down the damage early on in the game.
Yeah, definitely. Solari Gaming, what I want to see from them is aggression non-stop the entire game. Don't pull back. You even saw last time they did a good job of it. Now they just need to finish the job. The map selection here of Dalaran Arena is going to give them a bit more of an advantage. Starship was able to escape long distances on the Grand Arena, rotating pillar to pillar, as Vihel was saying with the Stampeding Roar and Displacer Beast. Now here on Dalaran Sewers, there's a lot less places to run, and we're going to have to see if he is able to escape death here, as we are jumping into the game between Tempo Storm and and Solari Gaming. Tempo Storm leading 1-0.
All right, we'll have to see if Peekaboo can land the opener that he wanted. Last time he wasn't able to, so let's see if he can make a difference this time. Starship getting out those initial hots rolling as Peekaboo and Jamili going in. And first global is going to be Icy Veins from Jamili, plus a immediate Shadow Dance. Look at this, immediate link forced out too.
They want to be aggressive. I like this from Temple Storm. They're turning around the aggression right away. Fuin actually down to 20% HP, caught into that smoke bomb, having to trinket and survival instincts. Waffles was able to get off a pre-link, or a link, sorry, in the CC, and that's that work Rachel is really, really good for. Starship taking a lot of damage. They'll load it up with his Barskin as well as Ironbar, catching a huge NS. But Fuin is in a little bit of trouble. He does still have his Vigil Incarnation and Ironbar, or sorry, is Berserk ready, but he has no trinket, so the next down to him is probably going to end up being Waffle's trinket.
Fuin is playing Ursul's Vortex. He tried to catch Starship off guard by pulling him back on the blink. I'm not sure if he was 100%, but that means he loses his bash. There's no consistent stun on Solari Gaming. It's going to be hard for them to lock Starship down. They have bursted through all of his defensive cooldowns. Heart of the Wild up for a few more seconds here. It's his last line of defense. Fuin is not giving up the hunt, but Waffles has no trinket. Fuin's got to be careful. He's sitting in that bear form, not line assigning Waffles just yet. We see Waffles now pushing forward. Starship is still the primary targets. Still no defensive cooldowns, caught into a stun, down to half HP, but Peekaboo is going to reverse the pressure, goes for the Shadow Dance. Waffles pre-links the Deep Freeze Polymorph, and they're going to end up breaking the Polymorph there. Starship is in so much trouble right now, blinking to the opposite side of the map. Fuin is able to keep up the chase because they broke that Polymorph. Murder of Crows now coming out. Starship answers with the Ironbark, answers with the Barkskin. A bit of an overlap, but it's not going to mean too much. You see the Ursul's Vortex down now onto Starship. He's able to get out of it, uses the dash now to kite away. Good defensive Polymorphs out from Jamili right here to stabilize Tempo Storm.
And Waffles, that pre-link, like you were saying, actually ended up saving Fuin, which is an excellent job. Starship getting the clone onto Fuin, able to give himself a little bit more time. Jamili actually just throwing out that ice block once again, just using his trinket and ice blocks to get out of CC. This could be the setup that they need, though. The full kidney shot onto Fuin, full polymorph onto Waffles. Fuin's going to have to do something miraculous to survive here. Down to 40% HP, actually using that Nature's Vigil, trying to get away. Starship going in for the clone, gets the full clone. This could be the game for Fuin. This looks like Temple Storm is going to take this series 2-0. And I don't know, this North American EU thing, yeah.
Despite the smack talk, Tempo Storm are going to wipe the floor. As they said, they are the janitors in this matchup. Clean sweeping now 2-0. Solari Gaming putting up a good fight, but just not good enough.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult matchup for Jungle Cleave, to be honest with you. They put up a good fight. I don't know about the whole Vortex thing.
You know, I know why they did it, because in that first matchup when they had Starship out in the middle where they wanted to, and if they would have stayed on him for just that extra split second, then because he was running back and forth between the pillars, if you can catch him out in the middle with a Vortex on top and he panics, like, you can just shut that down completely. But then again, when you're playing against a druid like Starship, he isn't someone that panics.
Yeah, he's not going to fall for those tricks. And I can't help but feel if they had that bash, they could have got so much more done. So now Tempo Storm is going to move forward. I believe they're going to be facing SK Gaming in the upper side of the bracket in the A group, whereas now Original Gangstar are going to have to fight off against Solari Gaming. So a lot more matches. I believe those are actually played out tomorrow, not today. So if you guys want to tune in again to see those matches, they will be happening tomorrow. We still have, I believe, 2 more series?
Yep. One more.
One more series.
One more.
Oh.
Only one more series.
Yep. Yeah. And actually, we do have our Windows 10 game DVR replay with Jackson over at the analyst stage.
Hey guys, that was a super fun series to watch. You gotta admire the confidence and the sheer determination of the Solari Gaming Jungle Cleave to stick with their guns and even change up talents to increase their Resto Druid training abilities. Let's take a look at this replay for a nice play that I want to refer to as Starship's Revenge. So he's getting trained the entire game, although his team is doing an excellent job peeling for him. Jamili refusing to sit in CC. He's using his ice block offensively. If ever he gets trapped, he's just going to use that ice block so he can continue to try to peel for his druid, druid as much as possible, and also pour out the damage. So Starship is going to escape. There's the signature Jamili ice block, and they have Fuin behind a pillar in a kidney shot, out of form. This is really, really bad for him. He's in bear form now, and watch Starship blink in to secure the game-winning clone on Waffles. What a play there. I love it. Starship's Revenge gets him the win, and they're moving on to the next round. So we actually have an interview with Team Captain Elite coming up right after this. Take it away, casters.
All right, thank you very much, Jackson. One of the things to note, actually, with that setup, which maybe the jungle didn't anticipate this, is that because Peekaboo is playing Subtlety, the snake trap just feeds him combo points non-stop. Because every time he fans, he's getting 5. Because sometimes he'll be like, okay, I have the Feral here, I have the Shaman, I can fan maybe 3 and I'll get 3. But it literally feeding him combo points non-stop. Every time he fans, he has 5 combo points.
Yeah.
So like, and that's maybe they just didn't anticipate that because they're used to playing against the combat RMDs. So that'll be an interesting thing to find out.
And that's one of the cool things about the different specs coming from the different regions and them not really being used to it. I know we saw some tomfoolery coming out of the Chinese teams yesterday with that bloodbath spec, so you never know what these guys could be running. Like we said, we could even see something as ridiculous as an arcane mage coming in this tournament.
Yeah, the season's been going on the ladder for quite some time, and people are still catching people by surprise. Unfortunately, the surprises haven't been enough to win the series, but we do have one final series to play out today, and that is in Group B, and I believe it is between which teams are we moving on to here?
Follow Esports
and Skillcapped. So another North America versus Europe, and both of these teams.
This is going to be a good game, yeah.
They've been smack talking each other left and right.
This is going to be, I think, if I had to guess, it's going to be the exact same matchup we just saw, except it's going to be a European RMD against a North American jungle. So we'll have to see how it goes.
So that's a really good glimpse into the difference in meta and how each team will play these particular comps.
Once again, maybe they won't even run jungle, though. Both these teams have come with multiple compositions, so it's really only speculation, but it would be cool to kind of see that mirror match and, like you said, see the different specs and the meta kind of change.
What would happen if the opposite of what happened here happens between there, you know? The North American jungle just beats the European RMD.
It'd be interesting.
Are we confirming something here?
Maybe. But in any case, we do have, of course, the team captain of Tempo Storm standing by with Jackson over at the analyst stage.
Hey guys, welcome back. I am joined by Tempo Storm Team Captain Elite, fresh off of their clean sweep, as you guys called it, of Solari Gaming. So you guys definitely have a lot of confidence. Where does that confidence come from?
We're pretty confident because, you know, we're pretty sure that we can basically beat their team with 3 different comps. So we always have something to fall back on, and we've already beaten this comp before, so basically know exactly what we should be doing.
And speaking of confidence, you put your confidence into your Resto Druid Starship. It seems like, well, I guess 2 questions. Did you expect that the Jungle Thief was going to train the Druid? And if so, you just put your faith in him, or why did you pick the Druid?
Yeah, so basically we thought that they were going to train our Druid right, but we had a lot of practice before this match in particular in the practice room, and we had, you know, a couple of strats lined up. We played both Pally version, we played the Druid version, and it was just, you know, a game time decision. We thought Druid worked well, so we went with it.
Okay, speaking of game time strats, we've heard whispers, you know, tales of yore over the mountains of Arcane. Are we going to be seeing Arcane in this tournament, you think?
That'll also be a game time decision, you know. Maybe not. You know, we have other things up our sleeves too, other than that.
Fair enough. And speaking of things up your sleeves, I know that you guys like to talk just a little bit of smack, even in the practice room. It seems like over the past couple of days, the teams have been getting to know each other, and it may have been you guys taking a little bit of time to shake up the competition, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're on home turf, so you know, you got to make sure that everyone, you know, doesn't feel too comfortable out here. And we know we're comfortable, so you know, humility's always getting in people's heads. So that's what we do.
I like it. We got strategies in-game and out, and that's something that we're definitely looking forward to seeing more of in this tournament. Congratulations for moving on. You're going to be on the BlizzCon stage. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with more arena matches.
My name is Absurge. I play Resto Shaman.
I'm Walter Bear. I play Feral Druid.
I'm Vossel. I play Affliction Warlock for FollowEsports.com.
We're pretty much the only FLS in jungle on US, and even all of the world, I think we're by far better than the others. I've been playing WoW since it came out, so almost 11 years.
I've been playing competitively for about 2 years, and I've been pretty high on the ladder, but this is my first time playing in an actual LAN tournament.
I've been playing competitively for maybe a year, maybe even less.
We generally practice a lot. Normally we just play a few hours of hardcore games, and then we just try to relax, not get too stressed out. A few hours is kind of like the breaking point. An hour or 2 of practice is fine, and then normally we take a break and come back later.
We get along really well, and it just helps with communication, and you know, we kind of just let egos go to the side and focus more on improving and stuff like that.
We've just all been hanging out together recently, so whenever we're not practicing, we're all just together as a team, or even a few of the other US teams. For the most part, meeting everyone here at Regionals and BlizzCon is pretty exciting. Everyone seems to be really nice in person.
There's definitely some teams here that don't necessarily improve as much as they could because they're held back by their egos from previous tournaments and stuff like that.
I think I pretty much proved after regionals I'm the best shaman in the game right now.
Hello, my name is Raiku and I play Mage for Skillcapped EU.
Hello, my name is Healingstad and I'll be playing Restoration Druid and Holy Paladin for Skillcapped.
I'm Pry and I play Rogue for Skillcapped.
I'm Ville, I'm the team captain of Skillcapped EU.
For us it's really important to be here because I think we are one of the strongest teams in EU.
We actually only came together about a week before the first qualifier, yeah. We had a little bit of a bumpy start, but our synergy's much stronger now.
We've prepared for every single team that's here.
None of the US teams have ever played at BlizzCon before. A lot of us have played at multiple regionals or qualified for multiple regionals.
Everyone underestimates North American teams. And I tell my team every time, don't underestimate them.
We are certain we're going to beat the NA teams at this BlizzCon.
I think there is no team I'm really scared of because we can beat everyone here.
SK Gaming, I wouldn't mind knocking out. They're really strong players and they play a really good comp.
We really do see SK Gaming being a big milestone for us.
I really want to knock out SK Gaming because we lost 3-2 on regionals against them.
They're pretty cocky as well, really cocky. So if they lost, I wouldn't mind.
Our rogue Prey has even lost sleep because of countless nights he wakes up in the middle of the night, he starts typing in Skype that he has a new strategy he wants to try out tomorrow.
We were kind of obsessed about beating them now.
This time we're not going to lose against them.
A moment for people to come together.
We are thrilled that you are here.
Hello, BlizzCon. This community is everything.
The World of Warcraft World Championship is brought to you in part by Intel, Windows 10, T-Mobile, and MasterCard.
Hey guys, welcome back to the World of Warcraft Arena World Championships live in Burbank, California. We just saw Tempo Storm 2-0 Solari Gaming in the first NA versus EU matchup of the day. Up next, we've got Follow Esports versus Skillcapped EU, another North America versus EU matchup. Now it's very similar. We're seeing the Jungle Cleave from North America fight potentially the R&D of EU. Wouldn't that be a fun matchup? I'm not really sure what they're gonna pick, but let's throw it over to the casters and see what they think.
All right, thanks so much, Jackson. I'm back here at the caster desk once again. Really excited for this upcoming matchup. I was watching the last one backstage, and that was it was a good showing coming out of Tempo Storm, I think, to put it mildly. That was Tempo Storm looking very strong in that last matchup. And now that we're having a similar one here once again between these two teams with potentially the similar comps as well, I'm actually really interested to see how this is going to work out.
I think it's really important that all of these teams here, you know, they're very confident in themselves and their ability, but no one should be underestimating anyone. I think all of these teams are incredible and they deserve to be here. So make sure, this is a warning to you all, like make sure you guys are playing your best and expect to play against really good people.
Yeah, definitely. We saw Absturge with a lot of confidence stating that he's the best resto shaman in the game, and that's something that can't be said without actions to back it up, and he's going to have the chance to do it here at BlizzCon, and his first competition is going to be Skillcapped EU, which can play Rogue, Mage, Restoration Druid. They can substitute in Valet on Shadow Priest as well to play the Holy Paladin Shatter play. I'm curious to see which composition composition both of these teams are going to lead off with.
Yeah, I'm excited to see when the draft finally comes up, like you said, to see. And I mean, a lot of this too, I think, is a little bit of a guess. I mean, no one knows for sure what the other team is going to run, so they're going to have to guess and put their best foot forward and kind of, yeah, basically throw out the first composition needs to be what their best chance is to win, I think.
Yeah, definitely. We will get that draft for you guys here very, very shortly, and we'll find out exactly what these two teams are going to be playing. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at the brackets for today and see how the 3 matches we've played out previously went down. Of course, the first game that we played put SK Gaming up 2-0 against Original Gangstar. That means that they will then be facing off against Solari Gaming, who lost 2-0 to Tempo Storm in that last match that we just saw down in the lower bracket. Of course, in the upper bracket, that does mean that we will have SK Gaming versus Tempo Storm coming up tomorrow. So those are 2 matches to watch for tomorrow that are going to be really, really exciting to see. And then looking over to Group B, if we can take a look at that here real quick. Earlier we had Cloud9 going 2-0 versus Do It For Fun, but that series, seriously, 2-0 does not justify how that series went. It was so ridiculously close. And then this next series that's coming up is going to have Skillcapped EU versus Follow Esports in a battle to not have to go up against Do It For Fun in the lower bracket.
Yeah, I know. Cloud9 and both Do It For Fun are looking and to see, but both of them are going to be watching this match to see who their opponents are coming up next so they can sort of start to get their game plan ready.
Yeah. And again, there's going to be 2 teams eliminated throughout this weekend. If you want to play on the BlizzCon stage, if you want to play to get first place, you definitely need to stay in it. If you lose 2 series in a row in the tournament today and tomorrow, you're eliminated. Obviously, you got a paid vacation, so you still get something out of it. But all these teams have so much pride on the line. They're definitely playing, I would say, more for the game than the money at this point. The title of BlizzCon champion is something that you can only achieve once a year.
Yeah, it's basically what you put, like we've been saying, that's kind of how you beat the game in PvP, is this is the thing to win. So this is, of course, very important to a lot of these players who have put a lot of time and effort to get good at this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's bring those players out onto the stage. Hailing from North America, our first team is going to be Follow Esports. All right, there they are, Team Follow Esports. Jellybean smiling for the camera there, right up in front. Of course, sitting right behind him is Vossel, followed by Absturge, and then Walter Bear down at the end. These guys, we saw some really, really impressive play from them at the Americas Regionals. They ended up coming in 3rd at the Americas Regionals to get here, but the games that they played were all super, super close. It was a really, really good series that they played against, I believe it was Luminosity that they played against to actually qualify for the Arena World Championship here at opening week. I'm definitely looking to see some really, really solid play coming out of these guys, but of course we do have one other team to introduce, and hailing from Europe, that's going to be Skillcapped EU. I love the rock paper scissors.
Yeah.
Where they you can tell that they play RMD sometimes. They're used to rock paper scissors.
Yeah, of course on the right we do have Pry next to him, Healing Stat, then Raikou and Valet. So those are the 4 members of Team Skillcapped EU, running primarily Rogue Mage Druid and that Holy Paladin God comp.
Yeah, and I think Pry takes the title of the loudest player. He has a very commanding play style in the practice area. I wouldn't even be surprised where mics could pick him up from over here. He's that into the game, and it's really important to have that kind of hype on your team. Sometimes if you're down a game, you need to keep momentum, you need to keep your head above water so that you don't end up drowning in a series. So Pry definitely has the confidence and the volume to support it. So I'm really excited to see these teams match up against each other. I'm curious if the positioning of the players is going to give away what comps they're starting off with at all. We could see Absturge, Walter, and Vossel staying together as 3. So maybe expecting the Feralock Shaman out from Follow Esports.
Well, we do actually have that draft ready and available so we can find out which 2 compositions these teams have locked in. Of course, they will be playing on the Grand Arena, but for Follow Esports, it is going to be that Feral Warlock Shaman composition. And then, of course, for Skillcapped EU, you can see it's going to be that RMD, the Rogue Mage Druid, going with the rock, paper, scissors here. I don't know why I like to call that rock, paper, scissors all of a sudden. That's just something that came up in literally the past like 30 seconds, but I still really appreciate the RMD coming out from Skillcapped EU. They've played it before. They're really, really, really good at it.
You know, one of the things that has been happening too at this event is a lot of the North American teams have sort of stuck together and they want to show that they're better than Europe, and I'm sure the European teams have done the same thing, and they've been practicing against each other, making sure that, you know, they can beat. So I'm sure Follow Esports has been playing against Cloud9 quite a bit in order for them to actually beat Skillcapped in this matchup.
And what's interesting about the European region is that the rogues typically play combat instead of subtlety. That allows them to a lot more consistent damage, but not so much burst. So even for Follow Esports to have so much practice, I'm curious to see if they're prepared for the combat specialization out from Pry.
Yeah, it's interesting. The combat spec, it does have a lot more of that burst, like you were saying, once that killing spree comes up. And it can be really tough to actually peel them. Of course, killing spree was actually nerfed a couple of seasons ago, where it allowed they can now be stunned during that killing spree, which at the beginning of Warlords, combat with killing spree was just crazy. Like they pushed the button and it's just tons of damage. There wasn't really anything you can do about it.
One-man killing machine. You can't really, there's nothing you can do about it. That was a good change that they put in the game. Stuff like that has been happening all season, which has been really, really great. So they're going to have to look out for that red buff killing spree and make sure that they interrupt it so they're not taking all that damage.
It's curious that the North American team, Follow Esports, are going to be leading with the Feral Lock Shaman, because we saw in the European region that they felt the Jungle Cleave was going to be better potentially in the first matchup. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. I know for a fact that Follow Esports during the North American regionals put up a good fight against the Rogue Mage Druids from there, and they consider Skillcapped EU to be the weaker one. So if that is a proven fact and not just opinion, it's definitely smart of them to lead with this composition.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see as this sort of progresses just how well Skillcapped can keep up their CC chains as well. Like the series before the last one that we were watching, where we saw Cloud9 just hitting those perfect timings with their CCs, even after they figured out the Orc Racial and how that sort of messed with their timings a little bit. It really showed just the strength of that RMD composition and how it can really just lock down a healer for an extended period of time. So as this game is just about to get underway, we will very soon be finding out the answers to all of these questions of whether it's going to be Follow Esports or Skillcapped EU that will continue along in this tournament, at least in the upper bracket.
Yeah, and sort of talk about how this matchup is going to be broken down. We're going to have Follow Esports most likely just trying to disrupt the CC. They put out a lot of damage. That's what they need to do. They need to make sure they stop the CC so they don't die and put out as much damage as possible, whereas the RMD needs to make sure that they have very coordinated bursts, make sure the crowd control is on point, and make sure not to die. If they get in trouble, they need to pull back, try to reset the best they can.
Yeah, Wallabear has been the main target for RMDs in general as the Feral Druid. So look to see if Wallabear can survive the onslaught out from Skillcapped EU as we jump into the game. Wallabear proved himself through the North American regions to be the most survivalist Druid amongst all the Feral Druids that have been competing. He lives the longest. That's exactly what he needs to do.
Yep, so we are going to follow Pry out of here. He's going to be looking for that opener, probably going to try to go for that sap onto the Shaman. That seems to be the most common way for these Rogue Mage Druid teams to want to open up. He's going to try to get a sap onto Absturge. Of course, Raikou and Raikou and Talby are both able to keep themselves pretty hidden as well. I should point out that Talby is healing stat. He does actually kind of have two different names that he goes by, but here we go. The sap does go out onto Absturge. Vassal immediately going to gateway out of there after he gets caught into that kidney shot. Trinkets it immediately and gateways out. Absturge still caught into a sheep, into a cyclone as well, and they are now trying to continue to keep up this damage onto Vassal, but he's done a great job getting over here out of line of sight and making sure that they can't actually get over to him very easily.
And Pry actually doing a pretty cool job there in the opener, make sure to use that depth from above so Wallabear wasn't actually able to get a stun on him, so he did a great job there. Vassal just pulling back, summoning up his pet. Really not too much achieved there in the opener. Vassal did use his trinket, but that's really all we saw out of these two teams.
Yeah, triple Shadow Fury out from Vassal. Dark Soul coming out, looking for some pressure, building it up onto Talby, but Talby displaces back to the center field. He's going to be completely fine. Vassal loading up full dots onto the team, doing a good job so far. There's the full kidney shot. Are they going to follow it up with the damage is the question. Pry building up towards that red buff. Full bash on the wall, full deep onto Absturge. Good cross CC out from Skillcapped EU. They secure the clone, they secure the poly. Vassal could be in a bit of trouble as he pops that Dark Regeneration to heal back up. Pry lands the kick onto that unstable affliction, and we can see Wallace still getting cloned up. Good crowd control chains out from Skillcapped EU thus far, but they don't have the damage to follow it up. Where is it?
Yeah, Vassal's just completely fine. He's going to be using that Soulborn Port, just running around, preventing some of that damage. Another Shadow Fury coming out onto Pry. Talby doing a good job staying back and making sure he doesn't get CC'd. Vassal having a hard time actually getting Fears out onto him right now. The Stampeding Roar coming out of Wallabear. This is the deep freeze though onto Absturge, the full blind onto Wallabear, who does have that Berserk pop. I don't think he stacked. Oh, he did. He ended up stacking it with his Incarnation. So he gets blinded on those cooldowns, decides not to shrink it. Vossel in a little trouble though, caught into the full kitty shot. Absurge does have a trinket link available, gets the spirit link off before going into that clone, so Vossel's going to be completely fine for now, but still not completely out of the woods, it looks like. The DR clone coming out, gating away, doing the best he can to get away and survive, porting back to Absurge, going to be completely fine for the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, Wallabear was not in that spirit link, so they didn't get the health from him, so Vossel was in kind of a scary situation there for just a second, but he did manage to kite very effectively and get away. One thing that Skillcapped has been doing up until very recently is they've actually been killing Vossel's pet as much as possible. That's why we weren't seeing quite as much damage going on to Follow Esports, because they were actually putting their damage into that pet. Now, of course, the pet is still active, and they're just going straight after Vossel, getting him not into that kidney shot yet again. Another kidney shot coming off of that. Absurge into a Cyclone. Vossel in a lot of trouble, but the second Spirit Link is going to come out from Absurge. He did have that trinket available to get that trinket link off, just barely saving Vossel in the nick of time.
Yeah, well timed from Absurge. Good trade, but now in this position with no trinket, Skillcapped EU are going to be looking to set up a kill potentially. Wallabear holding onto his trinket smartly. He doesn't want to open himself up as a target, going for that defensive clone over onto Pry. Looks like they're still trying to build up some pressure here right now onto Raikou, as he is fully dotted, fully bled up. Deep Freeze is now available if Raikou chooses to move in here shortly. Vossel seems to be the primary target. Dark Regeneration coming up here shortly though. Follow Esports should be all right. Talby starting to run out of mana. Here comes the setup. Deep Freeze Poly lands on Absurge. Full clone onto Walla. Walla trinkets out. Red Spree out from Pry. A lot of damage onto Vossel. Dark Regeneration comes out immediately to try and heal through it. The Polys are chaining through onto Absurge. He breaks it with the Comet Storm. Absurge needs to get some heals. He's trying to stop the Cyclones. He misses a wind shear. Grounds the follow-up clone, and Vossel is going to survive another setup.
Yeah, Absurge able to got those Spirit Walker's Grace heals out onto him, so he's going to be completely fine. Raikou, though, getting a little bit low. Talby actually having a huge trouble with his mana right now. I believe he's down to around 28% mana. So as this game goes on, unless he can get a drink, his team's just going to get rotted lower and lower. I mean, that's what Follow Esports wants. They want this game to go on long. Raikou actually caught into a full main right now, loaded up with Haunt. Gets dispelled by Talby Tree. Talby, I think, is going to be displacing back, trying to actually go for a drink. He realizes mana is big trouble. So this RMD of Skillcapped EU is going to pull back, just try to prevent as much damage as possible, and Talby's just going to drink to full. And there's not too much Vossel and Wallabear and Absurge can do to stop him.
Yeah, Talby just sitting back here, drinking up 83% mana now on Talby, putting him actually above Absurge, who was in a commanding lead just a second ago in terms of mana. So now Skillcapped EU playing defensively here for just a second. Looks like they may actually be looking for... No, actually, I'm incorrect. I thought that the Vossel's pet was over there and they were going to kill it, but no, both teams are just kind of hanging out behind the pillars. Like, no, you go. No, you go. Just waiting for the other person to actually move out. But Pry has gotten himself into stealth again, gets that sap out onto Vossel. They're actually just looking to reset this and get another opener off.
And Wallabear actually using his Berserk and Incarnation right away. Wants to go very, very offensive. Gets caught into that cheap shot. He doesn't have Trinket available, so if he gets CC'd on these cooldowns, it's going to be really hard for them to generate some pressure. Absurge actually going into the full kidney shot, able to get some heals off on himself. That was the Frozen Orb coming out from Raikou, as well as the Adrenaline Rush from Pry. So Absurge still taking quite a bit of damage. It looks like he is going to be completely fine. Pry actually getting the Ironbark from Talby, also taking a lot of damage, but he does have Ironbark as well as Feint. Not going to be taking too much. Gets topped off by Talby, and it looks like this RMD is going to be fine.
Yeah, now we see the full kidney shot onto Vossel. He has no Dark Regeneration for 8 more seconds. Absurge's trinket just comes up, bops the Ascendance. Now we can see Follow Esports rotating the pressure and momentum around. Raikou getting cloned up at low HP. Pry getting swapped to down to 40%. Talby desperately trying to pick his team back up. That drink that he got earlier was so important here. He's going to choose to use the Barskin on that Bash, and Walla's going to clone him up. Really well played from Walla. Reading the cooldown, cloning him up, switching the pressure over onto Raikou. Raikou does have 2 more ice blocks available, so as long as he presses it, he should be all right.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting to note how little they've been going after Raikou. A lot of times, the North American teams, you'll see them going after the mage constantly, just trying to get through the 2 ice blocks. But in this case, it seems almost like they're focusing primarily on Pry. Of course, as I say that, Wallabear jumps over and starts putting a bunch of damage into Raikou, just trying to keep Talby on his toes. Now a full fear onto Talby, but they're still putting so much damage into Vossel at the same time. Absurge not entirely out of the woods, but he is managing to get those heals off, as no major CC was landing on him just yet. Now switching it back around onto Pry once again. Wallabear putting some damage into him. Looks like, I'm guessing that their strategy here is to try to catch Pry without his feint up and try to just blow him up inside of a stun. But Pry is just a little bit too good for that. He's keeping that feint up non-stop, wants to make sure there is no possibility for them to swap over to him and blow him up that quick.
I really like what Follow Esports is doing. They're playing that Shaman Pillar game very, very well. Wallabear actually doing an excellent job making Raikou's life a nightmare, using that Typhoon as well as his kick and Cyclones to sort of shut down his crowd control, make sure he's not able to get too many icicles. But Wallabear actually caught into the full kidney shot right now. Still has no trinket available. He just have 2 charges of Survival Instinct, so if he gets out of the stun, he's going to be able to pop it. Stops the follow-up CC. Absurge still in that polymorph, though, at the moment. Gets DR polymorph by Raikou, but Raikou and Talby both getting dangerously low. Barskin coming out from Talby. using that NS, able to top himself off. Walter Bear still very low. Absurge actually dropping the Spirit Link. Walter Bear is able to get into it. Beautiful Spirit Link by Absurge there. I believe he actually also had to use his Trinket.
Yeah, he did. So Skillcapped EU are in another position where the next setup could be the kill. There's no trinkets available for Follow Esports. We can see that Skillcapped EU know that they have this game in the bag. They're just going to rotate back, look for a complete reset, maybe even allow Talby to drink, play for a little bit more of a later stage of the game. We can see the pet getting killed off, but Vossel's already preparing for that, resummoning it behind the pillar. We see Pry running in, not even going to go for a re-stealth. He does not gain the advantages of that like a subtlety rogue. Raikou trying to pop Wallabear out of stealth. Wall is actually immediately opening onto Talby. He has no Bart skin available. Blade's so greedy, and he's going to possibly go down. He trinkets air, barely surviving at 12% HP. If dampening was just a little bit higher, he's still going down to the dots, struggling to heal through the pressure. A blind onto Walla, but that blind is no longer available for the Incarnation. Follow Esports need to survive this kidney shot. Just there's no damage coming up from Pry and Raikou right now. Great counterspell onto the Frost Tree of Raikou. Now the image kidney shot following it up onto Absurge as he pops that Aura Mastery, trying to pick himself back up. Follow Esports could have this game in the bag. There's the Incarnation out from Walla, but he didn't really get anything done with it. Absurge needs to stabilize himself. He's got his trinket coming up in about 50 seconds. Spirit Link is available for him as well. Absurge needs to make sure that he pre-links the next incoming CC.
Talby spent 50% of his mana bar in that last exchange. 50%.
Yeah, very intensive healing. This is dampening at 20%, so I feel like the more this RMD pulls back, they're kind of playing into the advantages of Follow Esports, letting them reset. Absurge Trinket's going to be up in 30 seconds. Vossel has his Dark Regeneration. Trinket coming up for him in 20 seconds. They're going to have a lot of defensive cooldowns that they can work and rotate through, and it's going to be so hard for Talbot to heal through and keep his team offensive if they don't manage to make something happen right away. And I think this is looking good for Follow Esports.
Yeah, it really is. They're playing into the dampening game very well. Absurge's Trinket is coming up. Follow Esports have a lot of cooldowns left. All of their trinkets are coming up. This is looking great for Follow Esports. If they can stay alive just a little bit longer, they've caught Talby off a little bit, but now that dampening is a bit higher, Talby could end up going down in a potential setup like that. Absurge getting sapped. Nice Shadow Fury out from Vossel, reading the position, but they are going to follow it up with a kidney shot. Vossel trinkets out right away. He needs to get some dots rolling. They need the damage, but he does get locked out by Pry as he's dipping down to half HP. Absurge trying to ground some incoming CC, goes for the Ascendance, gift for the Naro. He needs to pick Vossel back up. Vossel gates away, pops the Dark Regeneration. Pry goes for the killing spree. Will they be able to chomp right through it? He's down at 39% HP. Gouge over onto Walla to try and crowd control him. Clone onto Absurge. Vossel completely alone at the moment, down at 30% HP. Absurge has the Trinket Link. He's going to pre-link the next incoming CC, stabilize his team. Follow Esports needs to get some damage, and they need to get it now.
Yeah, they need to turn this around in a hurry, and it looks like they're trying to do that onto Raikou right now. Wallabear is chasing after him constantly, but Vossel caught into another full kidney shot. Absurge into that deep freeze, but no follow-up CC. No, excuse me. The blind comes out. He's going to trinket that right away, but now he has nothing to stop this polymorph. Vossel is running for his life right now. He's got nothing left available. He ports back over, just trying to kite Pry as long as he possibly can, as Absurge is just sitting through polymorph after polymorph into a Cyclone, but he's out of that into a bash right away. How is Vossel still alive? The kidney shot comes out. He's at 16% health.
Heal from Absurge coming in. The smoke bomb tried to deny those incoming heals from the Absurge by Pry. Vossel actually getting offensively cloned there by Talby. Excellent job by him. Absurge is in a nightmare position, has no Spirit Link up for 50 seconds. He has no cooldowns to heal through this. The Garrote coming out from Pry onto Vossel. Catches a huge heal from Absurge, but it's not enough. Dampening at 32%. This is so hard for Absurge, who's now caught into that full polymorph. Gateway still not available for Vossel. He only has his port, and I think he's already used it. Down to 40% HP. Absurge actually gets out of that CC. Does able to get some heals off onto him, but he doesn't have any cooldowns to top him off.
Yeah, Vossel gets locked out. Dampening is so high. Absurge gets deep. They have to stop the CC onto Absurge if they want to win it. Counterspell onto the poly. Ring of Frost follows up. It's only half duration, but that's all they're going to need, I think. The killing spree comes out from Pry, and it's going to finish off Vossel. I hope he's down at 1% and will fall. And Skillcapped EU are going to take game number 1 against Follow Esports. Talby having a lot of close calls. Nonetheless, through that series, great play out from Vossel, hanging in there even to the bitter end. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. We can see Wallet not giving up for the time being here, but he's not going to take down Talby with this last Incarnation attempt. Skillcapped EU cleanly, well, not completely cleanly. That was very hard for them, but they are going to take Follow Esports down in game number 1.
It's so hard for these teams that fight against RMD. Like, the RMD doesn't overextend, and you know, they realize when they're in trouble and they can pull back. There's not much you can do. It's hard to cross the map and try to do anything to them. So if they play safe and play well, like they did that game, Skillcapped really really showing the power of RMD in that game. I mean, that was really close. Wallabear actually had his Incarnation as well as his Berserk up and ready to go near the end of that game. So if they could just live a little bit longer, that might have been the end for Skillcapped.
Yeah, Follow Esports is actually still in the game, battling it out with just Wallabear and Abster. Just not looking too great for them at this point, so that's why it's not up on your screen right now. But they're actually just going for it as much as they possibly can, just trying their best to make something happen here. But yeah, I believe it says, yeah, they have just dropped out of the game. So that is going to be that first game confirmed for Skillcapped EU, going up 1-0 over Follow Esports. But that was a ridiculously close match in so many situations. I don't know how Vazel lived nearly as long as he did. That is just, I'm blown away.
Yeah. Me too. And I think one of the things that maybe should have happened in that game is at some point Follow Esports, when they realized they had like the damage, when they had the damage and they had the defensive cooldowns, maybe they should have pushed and overextended. But
yeah,
it can be scary.
There was that one position where Trinkets just came up for their entire team, but they kind of had to hang back. I mean, Skillcapped EU were just resetting over and over, and those resets are really good for Follow Esports early on in the game, because they do need dampening, I think, to secure it. Unless Talby really gets caught off guard in a bad position, I don't think he's going to go down. Even at 13% dampening, he went down to 7% HP. I was really surprised that he actually got away living there. But now moving into the second map, it means that the teams are going to draft their compositions and the map. So a map selection again for a team like Follow Esports could allow Skillcapped EU to read what comp they're going to want to pick and try and counteract it. But I don't think we're going to see Valet play Shadow Priest here in this matchup.
I think that game looked good for them. They played it very safe. I mean, there's some scary moments, absolutely. Like you said, Talby Tree getting down to 7% HP. So very, very close game, but it still looked pretty convincing coming out from Skillcapped EU.
Yeah, definitely. I believe we actually have a poll result to take a look at. I was just told that we have a poll to actually take a look at here. So yeah, here we go. Follow Esports at 33% versus Skillcapped at 67% in this particular poll. I think after that first game, that's probably like, it's definitely leaning in that direction because one of these teams is now up one game over the other team. Surprising, that's how math works. But I totally feel like Follow Esports actually has it well within their capabilities to come back from this 1-0 deficit and take this series.
Yeah, they really do. And Skillcapped EU, they got caught and had a couple close calls, but were able to persevere. And I appreciate that they played for those resets, really playing into the strengths of their comp very well in game number 1. And we're looking to set up game number 2 as soon as possible. But the teams obviously want to discuss what compositions, what map. They're really thinking it through a lot. This is BlizzCon. This is it.
Yep, absolutely. And we do actually have a Windows 10 game DVR replay with Jackson available, so we'll get into that.
Hey guys, that was an absolutely insane game. A long game, and it featured 2 resets. We should take a look at this replay to see how it all panned out near the end of it. But it seemed like the entire time, Follow Esports was trying to build pressure. Wallabear was constantly in CC, and then when he wasn't in CC, he was always playing defensively. And although dampening does seem to favor a Warlock team like Follow Esports, they were really never able to go as offensive as they want to because Wallabear was constantly in CC. You can see him trying to peel with Cyclones, which is excellent against the Combat Rogue if you can make them lose their damaging buff. It really relieves a lot of pressure off of your team. But one of the things about a Combat Rogue is since the pressure is so consistent, it's really hard to recover. And with all those resets, they secure cooldowns, and they come back once those cooldowns are down, and they have their entire CC rotation back up, and they can secure the kill with that. I do think that Follow Esports does still have a chance in this. They just have to find some way to go offensive against this very skilled and very effective Skillcapped EU team. We're going to throw it back to the Taskers. Get ready for this next game.
Awesome, thank you so much. And we do actually have our draft available, so we can go ahead and take a look and find out what map we're going to, as well as if there have been any comp switches that either of these teams have elected to go for. It looks like we're headed to Blade's Edge Arena, and it's going to be the same compositions again. We're going to get Affliction Warlock, Restoration Shaman, and Feral Druid for Follow Esports, and then Frost Mage, Restoration Druid, Combat Rogue once again for Skillcapped.
So this is what you normally see when a Warlock team is being trained and they die. They always revert to going to Blade's Edge because it's kind of a safety map. You know, they can put their port on top of the bridge, and when they get in trouble, they can jump off the bridge, and the enemy team has 2 options. They can either chase, and then the Warlock ports up, or they don't chase, and the Warlock just ends up being fine, and the CC runs out on the healer, and then he can port up anyways with no CC left.
Yeah, but I would hope that Follow Esports are prepared for Skillcapped EU to go after Absturge, specifically on this map. If you're going to pick it to gain an advantage with your lock, that's going to open up other players on your team. So the Absturge needs to be prepared for that. He doesn't want to go down without trinketing or without linking. That would be terrible in this matchup to lose 0-2 like that, not to mention the tilt factor losing like that. So Absurge needs to be prepared moving into Blades Edge Arena, because Skillcapped EU were kind of poking at him a little bit, not really getting a lot done in the Grand Arena, and then keeping to the safe strategy of just locking Vossel down. But if Follow Esports can persevere, keep their damage high, and allow Vossel to have the openness to spread his dots and keep his pressure, it could look good for Follow Esports.
Yeah, absolutely. We do actually have a little bit of a fun fact to show you guys as we do get into this game here, as it's about to fill up, about Skillcapped EU. They were put together at the last minute before the qualifiers, literally last minute, which is why they had a tough time qualifying, but they've obviously done extremely well for themselves since then. So despite being a last-minute team, they are showing their strengths very well. And of course, with these players on this team, that's the sort of thing that you would expect from these guys.
Yeah, so probably going to see the same thing. RMD being very, very cautious as they go in, making sure they can get a sap on Absurge right away. Wallabear is going to be sort of the defensive player, pulling back and making sure he can land a stun on a Pry and shut down some of that initial damage, which is what his job and responsibility is. Yeah, Absurge is prepared for the attack. He's got Earthshield on himself. Let's see if Skillcapped EU are going to make any sort of target changes here in game number 2 on Blades Edge Arena. See Walla already opening very aggressively on the Pry, down to 42% HP, down to half. And Talby's going to use that NS. Triple Shadow Fury out from Vossel, looking to try and fake cast the counterspell here, trying to go for the haunt, trying to fake it, not falling for him. They are going to go after Absurge. Is he prepared for it? Talby's still down at half HP. And Pry needs to start building up some pressure, because Follow Esports are looking dominating in this position. Half kidney shot now onto Absurge. He trinkets, he drops the link, he trinkets into a blind. The blind is actually going to break. Walla with his incarnation up is doing an immense amount of pressure. Raikou is forced to block. Pry trying to recover, keeping that feint up, doing a good job so far as Raikou cancels that block, goes for the aggressive play, locks Vossel on that haunt, shutting down his damage and equalizing the game.
Yeah, that opener did not go well for Skillcapped at all. Pry actually got caught out of stealth, and that allowed Follow Esports to just put a whole lot of damage into the entire team of Skillcapped right away, because obviously the rest of the teammates then had to come out of their respective stealths in order to be able to help him out. But now they're trying to turn it back around, putting a whole bunch of damage into Vossel. He's going to go ahead and port away and get over here with Absurge behind the pillar off to the side, and he's going to be okay for the moment. But Absurge just doing a great job keeping himself alive, but has had to use his Trinket, one of his Spirit Links, and his Ascendants already in this matchup. So Skillcapped could be actually on the momentum coming back into this match. Absurge actually doing an excellent job there, dropping that capacitor totem, which actually stunned Raikou when he got hexed out of that. But Absurge now caught into the full polymorph Vossel into the kidney shot. I believe he has his port available if he needs it, so he can just jump off. Yeah, I think he's going to be safe for now, but he's taking a tremendous amount of damage, down to 30% HP, actually having to use his dark regen, jumps off the bridge, ports back up. Absurge needs to get some heals onto him, and right now Talby, Raikou, and Pry are sitting completely pretty. The DR Bash actually going out onto Pry into a full cycle and shutting down some of this damage. Vossel actually caught into that offensive clone by Talby, trying to deny some of those heals, but Vossel wants to go aggressive. He wants to turn around the pressure, pops that Demon Soul, but he actually gets locked out there on his haunt, so not going to be able to accomplish too much with that. In a little bit of trouble in this kidney shot. Absurge positioned very well, able to get some heals off onto him. Vossel's just going to gate away, save his port for a later date, and he's going to be fine. Yeah, but his Dark Soul really got shut down hard. Now finally getting some dots rolling. He would have liked to pair it with the Dark Soul. There is one coming up in about 4 seconds. Absurge's Trinket isn't available for 14. Pressure onto Pry. He pops the evasion, gouges up Walla. Talby tries to pick him back up, uses the Nature Swiftness, tops him off very rapidly. Raikou getting locked out on Frost. Follow Esports trying to play this out a little bit longer. Raikou getting cloned. Raikou Trinkets out. Are they going to look for the setup? Absurge grounds the Deep Freeze. He's still going for the Ring of Frost. He doesn't connect it, and that grounding is going to mean that Absurge can hold on his Trinket. He pre-links the Polymorph. Well done from Absurge. He's going to hold onto his Trinket a little bit longer here. Vossel was very much so exposed in that setup, and Walla is really the MVP of the game, just clone after clone onto all 3 players, doing a great job to lock down their setup. Follow Esports are looking good starting this game off. Yeah, Absurge actually playing like a god, making all kinds of plays, capping the mage, making sure he's pre-linking the Deep Freeze, grounding the Deep Freeze, like just amazing. He's doing an excellent job. They want to go aggressive. This is what I was talking about. They're pushing in, but now Wallabear might pay the ultimate price. Has to actually use his Trinket as well as his Survival Instinct. Absurge now caused into that Deep Freeze Sheep, and this is what happens when you push in against R&D. You get overextended, and it's hard without a pillar to stop the CC. Yeah, Follow Esports, though, doing an amazing job just sort of keeping themselves together. There's more Cyclones coming out from Wallabear, stopping Pry at 68% health. Talby having to use the Iron Bark and the Bark Skin on himself, just trying to stay alive through so much damage right now, down to 50% health. He's going to have to Displacer Beast out of there, but that's fine. They're just going to swap over onto Pry and start putting some damage into him instead. Now Pry has to back off. They're trying to kill off Vossel's pet, but that's not what they want to be killing at this point in the match. They want to be killing the actual other team, and Raikou has to Ice Block. So much forced out of Skillcapped EU by Follow Esports right now, who are all just sitting at 100% health, not in any form of danger whatsoever.
Yeah, Follow Esports are looking dominant in game number 2, but they need to be able to execute a kill. Wallabear into the full kidney shot. Absurge needs to save him. He trinkets out of the crowd controls, tries to pick him back up, doing a good job thus far. Grounds the incoming polymorph. Ring of Frost gets dropped. Absurge is actually stuck in it right now with Walla. Walla leaps out of it. Absurge might choose to DR himself here if he wants to. He's trying to wait for this Ring of Frost to fade, and it does end up going down. He should be able to pick up his team just fine. Vossel doing a great job on Blades' Arena, trying to keep his dots rolling here. Talby's Barkskin coming up, though. Talby's going to be feeling very safe. Raikou still with one more block. Absurge might even look for a drink. Talby sitting down for one, and we're kind of seeing a similar playstyle of last time where both teams look for these resets, sitting down to get their mana up, playing for a very, very late game.
Yeah, Pride's actually able to build some damage here, though. He has a target, he has that pet, so he's building up those Sinister Strikes and that buff, which is not what they want. I think they should have pulled it back to try to prevent him from getting that red buff a little bit faster. Vossel getting locked out right there on that haunt. Excellent job by Pride, who is caught into that full clone at the moment. The bash going out onto Talby Tree as well, who's caught into a clone by Wallabear. Wallabear in a little trouble, though, caught into the full kidney shot. The full deep freeze going on to Absurge. Vossel has his Demon Soul, trying to counter pressure the best he can while his team's in a little bit of trouble. Absurge has no trinket. Wallabear down to 10% HP, and that's going to be it. The Ice Nova comes in from Raikou, and Skillcapped EU going to take this game 2-0.
Yeah, North America striked first. Now Europe gets to strike back in this final series of today. What an awesome one nonetheless. And again, I don't feel like the score really represents the gameplay.
No, not at all. That was such an incredibly close match. We could hear from all the way over here at the caster desk. We could just hear the team of Skillcapped EU just shouting in jubilation at that kill. Just able to catch Wallabear into that little bit of CC there just long enough to be able to secure themselves a kill, as well as this series, taking a 2-0 versus Follow Esports. And that was actually a pretty heavy turnaround towards the end there. Follow Esports was looking dominating for that entire match, and then Skillcapped were like, no, actually, we're just going to win.
Yeah, well, that's what happens. They blow the Incarnation, they use the Berserking, they use the Demon Soul, and they get a lot of damage out, and it looks scary for the RMD. But once those cooldowns fade, and they're able to sort of stabilize, the momentum and the pressure just completely shifts in the RMD's favor.
Yeah, it really does, and Follow Esports played their hearts out in that matchup. Nobody really getting caught off guard. It was really just Skillcapped EU playing to the strengths of their comp, extending the game out, setting up the kills when there were no trinkets available, and Skillcapped EU are going to feel pretty happy about that, and I think that means that they're going to be fighting Cloud9 tomorrow in a mirror.
Ooh, are they going to play a mirror, though?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think the Holy Paladins are going to get a chance to shine tomorrow.
Yeah.
That could be really, really exciting to see. I'm actually super excited for tomorrow. Don't forget, guys, that we will be back here tomorrow with even more games.
So excited.
Yeah, more of these games? Yes, please.
Yes,
Sign me up. All right, so we do have Jackson ready over at the analyst station for our Windows 10 game DVR replay.
Hey guys, what an action-packed last match, and we saw Skillcapped EU, even with the potentially unfavorable map choice, work it to their advantage. Let's take a look at this replay here. So we know instantly on Blade's Edge, we're going to see the Warlock jumping off the bridge in any situation that he doesn't find favorable. Much like that, Wallabear's able to knock anybody off the bridge if he needs to do that as well. So what ends up happening, though, is that Wallabear has been holding onto his trinket a lot, at least during the first match, and then later on in the game, he started using his trinket to try to stay a little bit more offensive. You can see him using his Cyclone ability to peel, but also maybe freeze health pools in the enemy team. So we saw a lot of people get really low, but one of the things that happens with giving up your trinket to a combat rogue is you can get swapped to in an instant. And we saw Pry unleashing that combat rogue damage right when they needed it, which allowed them to score the kill. So we're going to have an interview with Healing Stat up next, but we're going to throw it to the casters while we get set up.
The 4 most terrifying words to anyone caught in a kidney shot are red buff killing spree.
Yep.
That's what we saw happen right there, and that just completely evaporated all of Walter Bear's health right at that last second. Such a well-played match coming out from Team Skillcapped EU. Of course, we do have the final brackets for today to go ahead and take a look at and break down how all of the games, the 4 series that we watched today actually went for us. Of course, the first series was SK Gaming versus Original Gangstar, SK Gaming taking that 2-0. Then later on, we had Tempo Storm versus Solari Gaming, and that was another 2-0 for Tempo Storm. So that means that our 2 upper bracket teams in Group A are going to be SK Gaming and Tempo Storm. And in the lower bracket, we're going to have Original Gangstar versus Solari Gaming.
And one of those teams is actually going to be completely eliminated from the tournament tomorrow. So a very high-stress situation for these guys. But let's go ahead and take a look at Group B really quick if we can. We did have Cloud9 against Do It For Fun. Cloud9 emerging victorious with the 2-0 victory. And then we had Skillcapped EU against Follow Esports. Skillcapped EU taking a 2-0 series as well. And a lot of these games today, even if they were 2-0, that doesn't do them justice. They were amazing games. And in the lower bracket, of course, we have Do It For Fun against Follow Esports. That's going to be an amazing game as well, as both those teams are incredible. But one of their tournament lives is on the line tomorrow.
Yeah, and it would be really awful for them to end up losing and not being able to compete at BlizzCon next week. The series tomorrow are going to be epic. Like I said, Cloud9 versus Skillcapped EU, North America versus Europe. They're going to finally get to prove who is, in fact, the best. And I believe on the winner side of the bracket, it's an EU versus NA as well between Tempo Storm and SK Gaming, Turbo Cleave versus RMD, or potentially Arcane Mage.
Yeah.
I don't want to forget that the Arcane Mage is actually here.
Never forget.
Never forget the Arcane Dream. It lives on. All right, so we do have Jackson over at the analyst station for our winners interview.
Hey guys, welcome to the analyst station. I am joined by Healing Stat, fresh off of their 2-0 victory over Follow Esports. Skillcapped is definitely going to be playing on BlizzCon stage. And I wanted to ask you guys, you haven't been playing together with the team that you're playing with now for very long. How did you guys meet, and how have you built synergy?
So Villa and I have been playing together for a little while. We played a little bit of the last expansion. Initially, Shadowplay was by far the most dominant comp on the ladder. We played with another mage called Babo Mage, and we won everyone. But as gear progressed, comps like Turbo got stronger. RMD became a much more dominant comp, and we had to swap mage eventually to Raikou, who is much better in the RMD composition.
Awesome. So we hear, it's a live studio, so we hear you guys yelling and screaming. And how does the team communication work with your team? It seems like as a healer, you might be in charge of defensive shot calling. We asked this earlier. Who's in charge of the team communication in general?
So fighting against this FLS is slightly different to some of the ones we meet in Europe, because they actually let us to have full resets because they don't see a win for themselves before dampening. So from their point of view, when we run away and reset, it's good for them because the dampening clock ticks further. For us, it's good because we get full mana, we get full cooldowns, we get to organize our game. So when we were doing these resets, it was often me calling, like, we need the blind on Feral here because his cooldown's up, we need to get away, I need to get a drink, although the whole team does help with this. When it comes to offensive gameplay, it really is between Raikou and Prey. They both have big input on what they can do and what they can't do. Certainly on the damage front, Prey is the loudest. When he has damage, everyone in the studio knows he has damage. And yeah, that was enough to win us the game.
Awesome. So, with the clean sweep moving forward, it sounds like you guys might be playing Cloud9. And they also run RMD. Do you think you'll give them the NA versus EU RMD mirror or switch it up?
It's yet to be decided. We are 2-0 against them in RMD mirrors on the US ladder. However, Shadowplay is a really strong comp against RMD, so we'll leave it open. We'll see tomorrow.
Okay, awesome. So one last question. Even though you guys had, a pretty convincing victory in the series, I do want to ask just one last thing about that moment when you got just a sliver of health. What was going through your mind there, and what happened?
So this was a mistake on our part, actually, because in Skype we were calling go, go, go. The Feral happened to get me out at the time, and he was allowed to triple stun me. We were expecting, or I personally was expecting, the Feral and the lock to be peeled off me at this point, but there was a little bit of delay, and Feral damage is really bursty. When he opens like this, he can get me low really quickly, as you saw. And EU Druids have a little bit of tendency to act on the greedy side, I believe. So I did save my trinket for the triple DR stun, but it was enough to get away.
Well, awesome. You survived that situation, and you have continued on in this tournament, so congratulations to you. Well done. We are going to take a short break, and then we'll be back for our goodbyes for the day.
All right, thank you so much. It was a really, really interesting interview from Healing Stat, aka Talbytree, which is his resto duo that he was playing in that last matchup. I thought it was really interesting his point about how when the resets were happening, because we saw a whole bunch of resets happening in that matchup. Of course, reset being when both teams pull away and they just sort of back off for a second. How the team of Follow Esports playing the Feral Lock Shaman, they were like, oh, this is good for us because we need to be able to get deep into dampening. Whereas Skillcapped with the RMD is like, no, 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 this is good for us because we want to be able to pull back and get our cooldowns back up and go back in again. So it's really interesting, and this is one of the awesome things about these World Championships, is sort of seeing these NA and EU teams, which both ladders have very, very different sort of metas going on with them. So just seeing them clash against each other and who ends up coming out on top. In this case, it was Skillcapped.
Yeah, one thing to talk about dampening too is although a lot of teams feel like it favors the compositions that do very spread pressure, it becomes a nightmare for a healer to deal through the single target damage of a rogue and a mage with the killing spree and the ice novas coming in. You can't keep people up with just Earth Shield and Riptide, so they actually have to channel, and it ends up sometimes costing them the game, and it's hard for them too in dampening.
Yeah, it definitely is. All the games today were exciting, and I'm sure that all the games tomorrow are going to be equally as such. It was awesome to see the European, North American rivalries, and that is going to continue tomorrow as well. I just can't wait for it.
Yeah, of course, we are going to have Solari Gaming versus Original Gangstar. Then we will have Follow Esports versus Do It For Fun, Tempo Storm versus SK Gaming, and Cloud9 versus Skillcapped EU. This is everything that I wanted for Christmas, and it's not even Halloween yet.
I don't know how to respond to that, but yeah, you're going to have some good games tomorrow, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in today. That's going to be it from us over here at the caster desk. We're going to head back over to Jackson for one last sign-off.
All right, guys, believe it or not, that does bring us to the end of the day for our World of Warcraft Arena World Championships Day 1 matches. Now, we had some absolutely insane games today, and we're just getting started. So be sure to come hang out with us tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll be here, and so will the players for some more absolutely epic matches. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.